Big Daddy. How you doing?
'Tis a good morning indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in the midweek edition of the Rob Brown Show is underway. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Great to have you. Welcome to the show. Ton to get to, a ton to talk about. We're going to be all over the place today. So if you want in, get in early. All right. This show is wide open. We got Kyle Mountain, the head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joining us at 8:35 this morning. We'll talk a little hockey. The boys, not a great outcome last Saturday night as they fell 8-0 at the house, but they turned around against the same Florida Everblades that stomped them on Saturday and got a big-time 3-2 dub on Sunday. Now they get set for a Friday and Sunday matchup this weekend as they try to climb back to the top of the table in the ECHL. We will talk to Kyle Mountain, the head coach of the Swamp Rabbits, at 8:35. That's the only guest today. So, no, it's not. Denton Day, 7:40, college football. We got Denton Day coming up from Sirius XM. Outside of those two guests, Denton Day at 7:40, Kyle Mountain at 8:30. The show belongs to you, my dear friends. And with last night's college football playoff rankings reveal, we have plenty to get to. I am Rob Brown on the other side of the metaphorical glasses. AM, the guy that is in a fist fight with his camera as the stream is up and running at facebook.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Rob Brown Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Lonzo's in charge of everything. What's up, dog?
I beat the camera, by the way.
You did? I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, we still got to work on your angles.
No, I want angles. See, you and Cole are perfectionists.
No.
And you want it a certain way. I want it to be different than you guys. I don't want it uniform. I don't want it looking, this is my good side and this hits the light just this way. I want to be slightly askew because that's me.
Yeah, but I mean, presentation's everything, right? Like that's like walking into a black tie dinner and board shorts and a tank top and be like, I want to be different. Yeah, but you're not helping yourself. Sometimes being different doesn't help you.
You don't understand. When you look this good, you outshine everybody. So you do whatever you can to make yourself not look as good, so that the other person gets their shine, gets their flowers, gets their spotlight. So you're welcome.
Thank you for being willing to sacrifice to help us little people.
Thank
you for helping
literally and figuratively.
Thank you for sacrificing to help us uggos have a brief moment where we feel good about ourselves. We appreciate that more than we can tell you. On behalf of all the uggos out here that pale in comparison to the spotlight that makes you glisten on a daily basis, we appreciate your sacrifice.
Well, at least you don't have to sit in a booster chair like Cole. So, I mean, there's that. If these chairs could go up higher, he would have it up near the ceiling. There'd be an angle, and all you'd see is like the lights up there.
Just catching strays this AM.
Do you think he has a step ladder in here to get up to? Because he gets a seat really high. He really does.
That's Lonzo. If any particular host of Wire to Wire,
apparently you're afraid of him.
Happens
but that's,
to be listening.
that's fine. Got to watch out for your shins.
It's just unnecessary aggression from the great one this morning. Unnecessary levels of aggression. All right, we do have a lot that we need to get into. Our college football playoff rankings were dropped last night. If, and they will not. We know that. There are still some ranked games. There are still some teams inside of the 12 as it is structured that have to play each other. But if the season was to end today, assuming that the teams are on top of their divisions, were to stay on top of their divisions, the college football playoff brackets would shape up this way. This according to ESPN. The one seed Oregon would get the winner of Alabama and Notre Dame, your 8-9 matchup. The 2 seed, Texas, would get the winner of the 7-10 matchup between Ole Miss and Indiana. The number 3 seed, Miami Hurricanes, would catch the winner of number 11, Georgia, and number 6, Penn State. And the number 4, Boise State Broncos, would catch the winner of BYU and Ohio State, your 12-5 matchup. Your matchup between the first team outside of the top 4 and the last team in. Now,
disrespectful.
It's not.
Would it be the same if Oregon loses the Big Ten championship? Would you flip-flop those, or would Oregon be somewhere else?
I would assume, and obviously this is going to be Oregon versus the winner.
It's going off what it is right now. I get that.
This would be the winner of Oregon versus Ohio State / Indiana, whoever wins this weekend. Whoever wins between the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers this Saturday will be going into the, and for the record, there is still a path. Technically, there is still a path for that loser of the game between Ohio State and Indiana, the loser of that game, to still be in the Big Ten championship. Now, obviously, it would require the other team, if they have a Big Ten game in Thanksgiving weekend, and both of them do, to lose rivalry weekend. It would take Michigan beating Ohio State, which if that was to happen, and Ohio State was to win their matchup this weekend with Indiana, and Indiana was to win rivalry weekend, Indiana would still go to the Big Ten championship. And at that point, Ohio State with 2 losses would probably be out. So the path is still there for both of those games to matter. Now, I don't know how it's going to shake out. I was on BetMGM last night with Brad Evans and Ryan Horvath. And they said, Rob Brown, what's your biggest surprise? What's your biggest surprise? What do you think is the biggest snuff? Are there any outsiders looking in or insiders looking out that you think folks are going to be shocked by? And my answer was, there are teams I'm interested in. I'm interested in SMU, who is on the outside looking in. I think SMU is going to be a very interesting illustration to some degree of what Lane Kiffin was talking about, right? If SMU finishes the season 11-1, go to the ACC title game, and let's say they lose a 1-point game against Miami, they fall to 11-2, but one of those 2 was a Power 5 conference championship game. Would they have an argument to get in over a 2-loss SEC team who did not participate in the conference championship game? I did, however, and I was going to talk about this later in the show, but since we're kind of here already, we'll lean into it and we can circle back around later. So there was something else that I think we talked yesterday about Lane Kiffin's comments. He said, look, there's some coaches in the SEC of 2-loss teams that do not want to be elected via the tiebreaker or otherwise, that do not want to be elected to go to the Southeastern Conference Championship game. And they don't want to because they feel like if you go to that game, you take an L, you might get bumped out in place of a 2-loss SEC team who did not participate in their conference championship game. Well, I think I came up with the out, and I won't be shocked if we see this after after conference championship weekend, if this pops up in the cultural discussion around the college football playoffs. I think one of the arguments that you're going to see for the way that, because I also came to the conclusion last night in my conversation with Brad and Ryan that, we've said, hey, do me a favor, put a camera and a microphone in the playoff selection committee's room. Let us hear the actual conversation. I heard somebody say this yesterday on SiriusXM, and we will ask Denton Day, the host of College Football Overtime on SiriusXM, coming up later in the show, because I thought it was interesting. There was somebody who pointed out yesterday that as much as it's going to drive people nuts, and it will, They're going to have to accept it. There may not be any clean, clear-cut way to rank people. It may come down to we just have to accept that there's a group of people in Dallas that get to, we may not have to, we have to accept that there's a group of people in Dallas, Texas that are going to meet in a hotel ballroom, and they are going to decide who it is that gets to play for college football's greatest prize, and it is entirely 100% opinion-based. And so when we start talking about opinion, which if there's one thing we know about America right now, it's that everybody's got them. And if yours is different than mine, then yours is wrong. And there is no room for discussion. SMU goes 11-1 in the regular season in a Power 5 conference, Power 4 conference, Power 3 conference, whatever we're calling them. They go 11-1. They make it to the ACC title game, and they lose a 1-point game to a top 8 team. Actually, at that point, they'll be potentially even higher than Miami Hurricanes. They lose 1 point to Miami, a top 10 team, regardless of the position they're in. And they end up 11-2 and Atlantic Coast Conference runners-up. Where do you drop that team to? Do you drop that team behind every 2-loss SEC team, including the teams that lost 2 in the regular season? Am I putting that team somewhere down behind a 2-loss Tennessee team that got hammered by Georgia? Am I putting them behind a 2-loss Ole Miss team that has 2, by the way, not great losses, right? Remember, Ole Miss losses were to a Kentucky team that is fighting to be 500 and an LSU team that has imploded around Brian Kelly. That's 2 bad losses. They have the 2 worst losses of a 2-loss SEC team. If SMU loses to Miami, they are already behind 2-loss Miami, 2-loss Ole Miss, 2-loss Georgia, 2-loss Tennessee, and 2-loss Alabama. Hell, 9-1 Miami is behind 2-1. 2-loss Alabama right now. So if SMU goes and competes for the ACC title game, and they walk out of that game 11-2 with a very close loss to Miami, who will be at the worst number 8 of the top 10 right now. Do we drop them behind a 2-loss Ole Miss team that has 2 bad losses? Do we win when both of those losses came in the regular season and Ole Miss did not participate in the SEC title game? Are there bonus points for participating in the conference title game? I'm coming around to the idea, and I don't know if this is something that you guys are on board with or you're going to hate it. Zoe, I'll let you speak for the people, as obviously Lonzo is a man of the people. Zoe, I kind of came to the thought last night. I'm not convicted of it yet, but I'm kind of coming to the point now where I'm thinking maybe there should be benefits for winning a conference championship game, but you cannot be punished for losing it. Right? You can improve your ranking by winning the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12 conference championship games. You can improve your ranking by winning a conference championship game, but you should not see your ranking drop for losing it. Because there is, for a lot of these teams we've talked about, there is no benefit to participating if you are already likely in a playoff spot. I'm looking at 8-2 Alabama. I'm looking at 8-2 Ole Miss. I'm looking at 8-2 Georgia. I'm looking at 8-2 Tennessee. I'm looking at 9-1 Miami. There is no benefit for participating in the conference championship game if losing bounces you from the playoffs And you can be jumped in those rankings by other teams who will end conference championship weekend with the same number of losses as you, but they did not participate. I am not convicted of it yet. I'm kind of running around in my head a little bit. But I'm kind of to the point where I think there should be only rewards and no punishment for the outcome of a conference championship game. If you lose, you cannot be dropped in the rankings, or at least not be dropped in the rankings behind a team that did not participate in theirs.
Yeah, it sounds like babying to me. Don't lose. I mean, there are consequences to losing. If you lose and you don't make the playoff, that's on you. Be a better team. I mean, what do you want them to do? You want them to go, oh, we opt out of the championship game. Or are they going to try to throw a game? They can't do that. They can't throw a game because then they're not going to get in either way. Anyway, just don't lose. Get in there and play the game as hard as you can and win the game. And if you don't deserve to go anywhere anyway.
So if Ohio State was in the position of, let's say, let's pick a team that's hovering. Let's say Georgia. I think that's a comparable brand. If Ohio State's in the position of Georgia, you're a 2-loss regular season team. I know it's not going to happen because there ain't that many good teams in the Big Ten. But you're 2 losses in the Big Ten. By the way, can we talk about the fact that I think the Big Ten might have the best branding in America? You're 2 losses in the Big Ten. Let's say those losses are both close losses to the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. You are a 2-loss team. There's a bunch of 2-loss teams in the Big Ten. And you get selected to go to the Big Ten championship. And right there behind you in the rankings, let's say you're number 8. And let's say it's just a round robin in the Big Ten as it was in the SEC this year. You're number 8 with 2 losses at 10-2 to end the year. Michigan is number 9, and they are 10-2 to end the year. The Oregon Ducks win the Big Ten regular season title outright. So, Lonzo, Ohio State University gets selected to go as the second participant in the Big Ten championship game. You go up against the Oregon Ducks. They are every bit a wagon, and you lose by 1 point to the number 1 team in America, the Oregon Ducks. Should you drop behind Michigan for taking a loss to a number 1 overall team in a neutral site game and drop behind Michigan, who did not play a 13th game when you did? Because the answer to me is no. You should not drop behind Michigan for losing a conference championship game that you were invited to and they were not.
All right.
Because if that's me, I'm out. I don't want to play it.
Right.
I'll forfeit it.
Here's what I believe the flaw in your thinking is. You're acting like there's a consistent way that they do this, and there isn't. So you think you're in the mind of the committee and how they will do this. We don't know how they're doing it. We don't. And it might be different for different situations. I seriously doubt it's consistent across the board. So I don't know what would happen in that case. But in the end, there's one way to solve all that. Just win. You win, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah,
unless you're Florida State.
That philosophy, first off, thank you. Correct. And I know you're saying it as a smart ass, but you're right. Like, I know you're being smart-castic, and I get it, but you're right. You literally told Florida State last year, your results don't matter. They're irrelevant. They don't matter. The head games we play in our brain and our imagination matter more than what you did on a football field. That's why I was so ticked off last year. But we'll come back to that. The point that I'm making here is, in years gone by, we have absolutely and consistently seen teams that get dropped in the final rankings for losing their conference championship game. Now, in years gone by, it hasn't really mattered all that much, right? Very rarely has it actually made a big impact on the playoff 4. Because ordinarily, we knew who they were going to be. They all went and won their conference. It didn't really have an impact. But now it does. Now it does, because 12's got the same chance as 1 does to make it happen. So I think Lane Kiffin had a good point. And if I got the opportunity to talk to the committee, again, I'm not super convicted of this yet. I'm going to have to spend the day today looking up and down the remaining 2 weeks worth of schedule for all of college football and kind of figure out, what situations might this come into play. But I think I am coming around on creating a, let's say, protocol, mainly because I like saying the word protocol. I think there needs to be a protocol for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee that says if you participate in and win your conference championship game, your ranking can improve. But if you participate and lose your conference championship game, your ranking cannot drop behind a team that did not participate in theirs. So, if you're Ole Miss and let's say Boise State wins their conference championship game, you can get jumped by Boise State. But if you're Ole Miss, you make it to the SEC title game via tiebreaker, you lose that game, you can't be jumped by Georgia, who did not go to the conference championship game. I don't know how that works out or not. I got to do some more thinking. But I'm kind of leaning towards that's what needs to be. All right, we got a lot of news and notes. We'll keep going with the college football talk when we come back. I'm Rob, he's Alonzo. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, quick live coming right back, and then we'll address some of your thoughts. Stay right there for me.
By the way, everybody, I'm just kidding about Cole. He's awesome.
I love Cole. So, let's talk about some of the shocks, some of the surprises, some of the interesting things that came out last night. Let's start with this one. Miami sat at home. They were on the bye week this week. The Miami Hurricanes, record of 9-1, number 8 in the country. They have one L. It was last weekend when they dropped the ball 28-20, literally dropped the ball, did Cam Ward. 28-23, they fall to the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. They have Wake Forest at home this week. Then they are on the road at Syracuse the week after that. The Alabama Crimson Tide are 9-2. They beat Mercer by 45 points this past weekend. So Alabama smokes an FCS opponent. Miami gets a bye after their first and only L on the season. And Alabama jumps Miami in the college football playoff rankings. The 8-2 Crimson Tide, who have a loss to Vanderbilt and have a loss to Tennessee, though that is a top 12 loss. They get to jump the University of Miami. Miami goes to 8. Now, in the grand scheme of things, does this matter all that much? Not really, because if Miami wins the Atlantic Coast Conference and knocks off probably SMU, though Clemson is still in play here, if Miami wins the ACC, Miami will likely find themselves as one of the top 4 seeds and earning a bye. So it doesn't matter that much because Miami is in a spot where they kind of control their own destiny. They may end up as the 4th bye, likely as the 3rd, but they do control their own destiny. However, this is another one of those spots that, and this is something, again, dating back to, and I know a lot of you got on my behind about being upset about the Florida State-Alabama scenario last year. But I told you then, this isn't about Florida State. As much as it's kind of like the story about closing the blinds at Arlington Stadium ain't about the blinds, right? It's just one illustration that points to a bigger problem. Kind of the same thing. My issue with the Florida State stuff last year was never about Florida State, although some of you refused to accept that. That's fine. My issue was that this is going to happen to somebody else. Even in a 12-team playoff, this is going to happen to somebody else. And if you're not up in arms about it now, don't expect me to have your back when it happens to you. And I think it can. This is kind of the same thing to me. Am I upset about this? A little bit. Because I don't know why it is that Miami has to be punished. And you guys know how I feel about Miami. I'm not a fan, respectfully. I don't understand why Miami has to get punished for having the same number of bye weeks that everybody else has. And in a spot that a lot of teams have a bye week. 3 weeks before the end of your season. You have a bye week, you have a tune-up game, and then you have your rivalry game. I don't know how Miami-Syracuse is a rivalry. Whatever, not the point. Why would Miami drop a spot to Alabama when Alabama beat Mercer? Now, if Alabama this weekend would have had and defeated a Tennessee, an Ole Miss, a Georgia, at least I could hear your strength of schedule argument. Well, the ACC is not good this year. And we can't, sorry, ACC fans, you can't pretend that it is. I'm not saying it's atrocious. You have 3 teams inside the top 25. But of what we consider the power conferences, you have one more top 25 team than the American Athletic Conference. The ACC has 1 ranked team more than the AAC. You have 3 ranked teams. That is less than the Big 12. And we've spent the entire season running smack at the Big 12 this year about how it was supposed to be, and I fell for this too. It was supposed to be the most parity-filled conference. I came into this year thinking that there's 9 teams that can win this conference. I mean, there's effectively 4 now. There's really 2, BYU and Colorado, because Arizona State and Iowa State, I don't know that either one of those teams is going to see Colorado or BYU. I mean, BYU, I guess Colorado could theoretically lose to Kansas. It is at Arrowhead, and the Rock Chalk Jayhawks are kind of jacked up coming off that win over BYU and handing them the first L. But that's a 3-4 conference Kansas team. It's a 4-6 team overall, right? So the Big 12 has 2, but they still have more ranked teams than the ACC. So does the Big 10. So you can't argue that the schedule is ridiculously difficult for the Miami Hurricanes. It would have been if, Florida was what Florida's supposed to be. Florida State was what Florida State was supposed to be. If didn't drop a real dumb L last weekend to Stanford, then yeah, it would have looked a lot better. But I would like an explanation. I'm not even saying I'm super mad at it. I would like an explanation as to why Miami takes a bye, which is something every team does, 1 of 2, which is something every team does, and they get punished to drop a spot behind Alabama, who blows out a team out of the Southern Conference. Respect to the SoCon. If this is to send a message to the ACC, okay, but what do you want them to do about it? I'm not sure. And Miami doesn't really have a signature win because Florida State stinks, because Florida stinks, because they did not get to play Clemson in the regular season. But I feel like this is one of those spots where it's I'm not saying I'm super angry about it. I am saying I'd like an explanation. I'm not saying I really have a big problem. I'm not trying to blow it up, but I would like an explanation. And if the explanation is, well, the SEC, though, I'm not on board with that. But it is what it is. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We got a lot more college football to talk about with the college football playoff rankings dropping last night. We'll continue to look at some of the teams that should be ticked off, some of the teams that should be elated with where they are, and what the bracket would look like and how we think it plays out, all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Sam, I appreciate the advice, the suggestion. I will tell you that first off, I recognize, and this is not a whatever you want to call it, my voice show sound. I hope you'll stick around. I hope you would like to have fun on the show. Have at it. My voice tone, show inflection, volume, whatever you want to call it, is not for everybody. And I've made that is something I have known throughout my 17 years of broadcasting. I've had plenty of people tell me that I ain't for them, and it doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
Sounds different on the air than it does on YouTube, though.
Sure, I'm sure it does. And unfortunately, the unfortunate part is this is a radio show in Greenville, South Carolina, so we have to tailor the sound to the FM radio, which can unfortunately impact the integrity of the sound on the live stream, but the radio product has to come first for us. So we are not going to have the sound dialed into a podcast quality level like a lot of online shows do, because we got to dial in on the radio product first. But I will also tell you that they put me on in the mornings because they want energy and volume in a morning drive slot. That's why we're here. But I want you to know I don't think you're a hater. I do appreciate it. I have heard that feedback many times in the career. I appreciate it, and I hope you'll stick around and be a part of the Armada. I get what you're saying, and again, I appreciate it. I am not dismissing the feedback by any stretch of the imagination. Also, what if you're in Oregon? What time is it there? Because I also tell you, I would probably also be annoyed with me if it is 3:30 in the morning in Oregon. Are you from Oregon, or are you here in the area and you moved here from Oregon, or are you in Oregon? Out of curiosity, because if you're in Oregon, why are you awake?
It is YouTube. He could be in Australia.
That's what I'm saying.
He could be in Australia right now. He did say mate.
Of Alabama, Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Ohio State all make it in for reasons. I told you before the year started, man. It's the SEC Big Ten Invitational. You guys, everybody else can have whatever spots aren't
His
taken.
reasons might be money related. I'm just guessing. That was oddly specific, and those teams are in different places.
I did not take out a national championship futures bet this year, and I'm real glad I didn't, because I don't know.
Which is good for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Freelancer, and yes, I'm in Oregon. Nice, man. Well, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy the shows. I hope, despite my my too many octaves, that you'll stick around. I like having more voices. I like having more input on the show. So you're welcome to be a part of what we're building here. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that, buddy. I promise you, not everybody loves my quote antic sounds, volume, and everything else. I was literally told last night by a very, very nice young lady that she does not drive places in the morning with her husband anymore because of me.
That's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to you.
It made me feel good. I was warm and fuzzied. Real quick before we get back into the college football playoff rankings, as we discuss, debate, break down, diagnose, and otherwise analyze the 12-team playoff model, as we got our numbers drop last night. Have a young man that popped into the chat by the name of Sam. Sam is a freelancer who's listening to us from up in Oregon. I have not been to Oregon. It is very, very high on my bucket list of states to visit. I have a fraternity brother that lives up there. He's in Portland, and he says Oregon is a delightful state. I hope to make it to Oregon. I've heard wonderful things. In fact, it's I think it's either next or second to next on the list of great American states that the wife and I want to chalk off the bucket list. I'd like to get up there. Anyway, Sam chimed in and said, hey, and this is I don't take this any kind of way. He said, hey, man, popping by, random swiper, came across the show, check it in. He said, you're very loud. Drop the octaves a spot or two. The passion, the excitement, great. You're a little loud for what I assume in Oregon is like 3:30 in the morning, I believe. And I get it. I've said before, this show I appreciate the feedback. I do not take it personally. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I understand, and I've said this to you guys since I got this job coming up on 5 years ago. This show ain't for everybody. No show is for everybody. The sound of this show is not for everybody. To use a term that Lonzo used earlier in the week, the spontaneity of this show is not for everybody. The left-hand turns, the weave is not for everybody. All right?
Hey, it's all natural. Don't. I mean, this is real hair.
For
dude.
sure.
I mean,
no, that's not what I meant. Not what I meant.
No weaves over here.
The show's not for everybody. For a lot of people, the volume, the tone, the random, like it's not for everybody, and that's fine. That's fine. That being said, I do have an amusing anecdote. Last night, I was honored, privileged to host the Habitat for Humanity 2024 Dinner on Ice Gala. They asked me to come. They do this fun things, great one where they bring the Swamp Rabbit hockey team out and they allow people in the community. You get a hockey player assigned to your table, right? You buy a ticket to sit at the table. All that money goes to Habitat. And then you can bid money to have your hockey player perform some sort of challenge, right? So you will take your hockey player and you will, make a bet with another player, with another table that your player can. I'll give you a couple we did last night. Which player can do more push-ups in 30 seconds? Which player can perform a more entertaining 30-second, we'll say, dance to Chapel Roan's Pink Pony Club? Which Mark Bonetti, the voice of the Swamp Rabbits, got challenged last night. Can you fit 10 jumbo-sized marshmallows into your mouth in 30 seconds? The mouth of the bits. It's a good time, right? So they asked me to MC this, which is introduce the speakers, tell a couple of jokes, mix it up a little bit, and then basically play-by-play these challenges throughout the night. Well, the evening was beginning. I had about 5-10 minutes before I go on the stage, and I had a gentleman walk up to me and introduce himself. His name was James. James walked up, was very, very kind, introduced himself. He said, I see you at the hockey games. I listen to your show every morning. Man, I enjoy it. I said, thanks. He introduced me to his wife, who I am a terrible, terrible person and whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Teresa? Something T. Anyway, doesn't matter because she's not listening. How do I know? Because she said to me, she said, you seem like a very nice man, and I feel really bad about this. And I said, oh, what's about to happen, ma'am? And she said, when he and I have to go somewhere in the morning, I don't ride with him in his car because of you. And I said, sir, I swear to you, I've never met your wife in person before. And he laughed and he said, no, all she does when she gets in the car and I'm listening to you is complain. Because apparently James they listen in the morning, and then he listens to the podcast, which you can find at thefanupstate.com, thefanupstate.com, or search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show wherever major podcasts are found. He listens to the show on the drive in the morning, and then he podcasts the rest of the show later in the day. And he said he said she hates it. And she went, I'm really sorry. That was it. That was it. She said, I hate it. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I said, it's not for everybody. That's okay. I understand it. There are people that I'm dear friends with. There are people in my life that don't like my show. Love me. Come to my house. Sit by the bonfire. Love me. Can't stand the show. So again, it's not for everybody. But we're going to come in here. We're going to give you the juice, the gas, the energy, everything we got, full throttle, all afterburners, no breaks, start to finish, full send. So if it's for you, spectacular. Great to have you. You guys like James? If it's not for you, I promise you my feelings aren't hurt. People like James's wife. All right. Let's take a look at some of the other things we picked up out of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings that dropped last night. By the way, Jacob pops in the chat, said, took me a while to come around to your sound, but now I rely on it to give me the juice in the AM like a cold shower. I really liked the first 80% of that, Jacob. The like a cold, nobody likes a cold shower.
As many of us know what a cold shower now feels like. No, it's not that.
Nobody likes a cold shower. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. Like once, twice a year, I'll have one of those days that I just can't get going. Be like 3 p.m. I got bleep to do, and I just cannot get my life together. And every now and then, and this is usually like when there's something big that night, right? Something big, like last night. I didn't do it last night, but like last night. I got a gala that I got to go to. Doesn't start till 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and I've been up since 3:30 in the morning. Didn't get my scheduled afternoon siesta,
So really quick, a gala is just a richer party. Is that?
It's a fancy party.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's a fancy party.
I'll never go to one of those. I just was.
You want to go? You can be my +1 next year if you want to go. It's
no,
a lot of fun.
No, there's people there, right?
A lot of people.
Yeah. No thanks.
And not that this helps you, but an open bar. That gala's got to have an open bar. If it's not an open bar gala, it's not a gala. Got to have an open bar. Anyway, I with a night like last night, ordinarily, what I would do is I would leave work. I would go take care of, the client meetings or whatever I got to do after the show. And then I would go home and I would catch a, 1 to 2 hour siesta, depending on how the day went. There are days where that just doesn't happen. And I gotta get my life together. I gotta get my ass in gear. And it's tough to do. And then I'm jump in the cold shower. Like 5 minutes, bang. It is the most refreshing thing in the world. Do I despise it with every cell of my being? Yep. So I don't know how I feel about being compared to one, because on one hand, I get it. It's absolutely a jolt. It's absolutely some juice. It's absolutely going to get you full throttle for the next however many minutes, hours you need it to. On the flip side, no one I know. Jacob's popping into the chat saying, I take a cold shower every day. Jacob, are you okay? Do you need a therapist?
Yeah, I'm not worried about you because, after the hurricane where there was no choice, it's either take a cold shower or come to work stinky, which some people still choose to do to this day. I can't do that. Got to take a shower. And it's the point of dread before you even get into that shower. So what you're saying is you dread the show until you wade in for a while and then you're good.
Okay. 71307 is the text line. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. 71307 is the text line.
Cold plunge people are psychos.
I've told you this before. A couple of years ago, went over to Charleston, did New Year's Eve with the now brother and sister-in-law. And they wanted to do a polar plunge in the Atlantic, right? You go out in the middle of the damn winter and you sprint into the Atlantic Ocean.
I still think that's a dare where someone said, watch this. And then someone said, I'll do it. And then you have to do it.
Well, there were about 10,000.
Yeah, I know. And then it just escalated.
I will tell you that in my real day-to-day life, there's like a negative 1,000% interest in doing that. But when the brother-in-law was like, I'm doing it. It's like, oh, man, okay. So we did this, and I will tell you that, like, sincerely, I came out of that water feeling like a new person. Like, I came out of that water like, I'm turning my life around.
So what you're saying is you came out of that water thankful for being alive?
I'm turning my life around. I'm going to be a multi-millionaire by the end of this year. I'm going to own several small businesses by the end of this year. Like, I'm going to be donating billions of dollars. I might buy Twitter. We'll see.
What month was this? Because this year is almost over. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying I did those things. I'm saying I felt that way coming out of that water. So I get it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I should. Maybe we should. Maybe we should do a cold plunge like on Monday mornings. Maybe a cold shower Monday morning is the way to go. Maybe that's the way to handle it. Because you get that ready to roll, ready to rock. I'm a new man. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go rescue puppies because of this. I feel like a new person. I'm gonna end up sitting on the board of directors for a New York Stock Exchange Fortune 500 company because that's how I felt. And then I don't do any of those things, but I feel like I can, and I feel like I'm a millennial. Feelings are more important than actions, right?
All right. So
haven't we established this?
The cold shower just made me appreciate hot water. That's all it did. And was thankful when the electricity came back on and the first bits of warm water came through the shower.
It's not unfair. All right. We got our college football playoff rankings. They stack up this way. Top spot goes to the Oregon Ducks, surprising to exactly and precisely no one. The Ohio State Buckeyes are number 2. Texas is number 3. Penn State is number 4. All three of those teams, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State, have one loss. We have an undefeated Indiana inside the top 5 at number 5. Notre Dame jumps up a pair of spots to number 6. Alabama jumps up 3 spots to number 7. They are the highest ranked 8-2 team. Just behind them, as we mentioned a mere moments ago, is 9-1 Miami, one spot behind 8-2 Alabama, who jumps them despite playing only Mercer this weekend. Miami on the bye, punished for it. Ole Miss up a couple of spots to number 9 at 8-2. Georgia bunny hops Tennessee to get back into the top 10. They are 8-2 after a win over the Tennessee Volunteers. There you find Tennessee at number 11 at 8-2, down 4 spots. 1 spot, however, ahead of 9-1 Boise State. 9-1 SMU is 13. 9-1 BYU is 14. Any problems with where we are so far? Great. When the only one I really have is Alabama jumping Miami, but I don't really have any issues outside of that.
Yeah, because that's going to work itself out. Yeah, so I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I do think that, I part of the reason somebody asked, like, why are you upset about the Bama Miami thing? Like, don't these things kind of work themselves out? Which makes sense, right? If Miami goes on and they win the ACC, who cares? They're going to be a top 4 seed. They're going to catch a bye. It's going to work itself out. And the answer is yes. But my problem is, if we let these kind of things go in week 11, aren't we kind of setting the stage to let them go in week 14, week 15, conference championship week? If we let there be so much inconsistency, as I feel like there is here, if we allow there to be so much inconsistency now in this week, are we not kind of generating the foundation for there to be inconsistency for the last playoff rankings, the one that will actually determine the bracket? That's why these things are conversations to me right now, because I think if we can address the way that things are seeded and selected now, there's a little less room for controversy and conspiracy at the end of the year. So we'll see. SMU 13, BYU, Texas A&M, and Colorado are 14, 15, 16. And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, as of right now, the Palmetto Bowl just a couple of weeks away in Clemson, South Carolina. The number 17 Clemson Tigers, the number 18 South Carolina Gamecocks. Zoe, I'm about to cancel my trip to Florida for Thanksgiving over this game.
By the way, I'm off next week, so if you want my pick for the game, Friday, you let me know.
It's a good week to take off. It's a good week to take off. I mean, not for me, because I got to do rivalry week by myself. But,
for a couple of days. It ain't like you're here all week.
That's also true. Army, Tulane, Arizona State, 19, 20, 21. And rounding out the top 25 are Iowa State, Mizzou, UNLV, and Illinois. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in a minute, by the way, Sam says Miami could easily lose to Syracuse. Miami is semi-fraudulent. My man, welcome to the show. I've been saying that all year long. Miami is Cam Ward, and Mario Cristobal is kryptonite to success. He consistently has that team unprepared and unready, like he did against Georgia Tech this year and last year. Fran Brown's a dog up there in Syracuse. This is an opportunity for the Orange to be the disruptors, and they love to do that. I agree with that take. When we come back here in a minute, Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, top 3 sports stories that you need to know. We got Denton Day joining us coming up in just a little while, over 40 minutes, to talk college football. Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, at 8:35. All of that after Lonzo charms you with this Sports Flash.
Like a snake charmer. That's what I do. The Charlotte Hornets have been effectively eliminated from the NBA in-season cup tournament. Who cares? After a 116-115 loss to Brooklyn last night, Brandon Miller led all Hornets scorers with 29, and Miles Bridges had 21. The courts do look pretty cool, though, by the way. The New York Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas after a 3-8 start to the season. The move comes 6 weeks after the team fired former head coach Robert Saleh. The Jets were 30-64 under Morgan's leadership. It's really, really, really bad. It really is. With no winning seasons and no playoff appearances, the second worst winning percentage in that stretch in the NFL. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels. It's a bird. I looked it up because I didn't know what a Stormy Petrel is. It's Furman versus Oglethorpe right here on your home for Paladins basketball. The Fan, upstate. Stormy Petrel. I looked it up. It kind of looks like a Seahawk. I hope I'm saying petrol right. I mean, don't want to offend the Oglethorpe people.
Mountie is moving to 8 o'clock. He's got an 8:30 meeting. So
I'm, maybe I should be, Zach, but I'm not nervous at all about Indiana. I know it's Rob's team. He's all down with the coach.
I love Kurt Signetti.
And
He's a dog.
And we haven't got to see how he responds after losing. Hopefully we do Saturday. I mean, that's my opinion. Furman is playing the Stormy Petrels tonight.
Pardon me?
The Stormy Petrels.
Is that a real team?
I had to look. It's Oglethorpe. The Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels. Yes, I had to look it up because
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Y'all, I've been doing football a very long time. I've never heard of the Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels. Oh, basketball?
It's basketball. But still,
oh, that's right.
But still, it's yeah.
Wait a minute. According to Wikipedia, the Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels football team represented Oglethorpe University, so they did have a football team, but they have not competed since 1941 when World War II shut down all sports in 1942.
They're playing basketball tonight.
I'll be darned. Oglethorpe University, based out of Brookhaven, Georgia, is a school with an endowment of $35 million, established in 1835. They are black and athletic gold. All right, y'all are yellow. We need to stop with the gold thing. You're not gold, you're yellow.
Yeah, but it's athletic.
We all learned our colors.
Yeah, you can look at certain colors and go, that color's athletic. Gold. Yeah.
Sam, like I said, man, not offended in the least. I appreciate feedback of all types from anywhere I can get it. Always have, always will. Not offended, not at all. I appreciate you being willing to offer up the feedback. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome in Rob Brown and the great one, Lonzo, with you this AM. Phone lines, text lines, all open for you this lovely AM. 844-FANFONE, 844-326-3663 is the number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas Fan Phone. You can text us on the text line, up and running for you this AM at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air, like James. James texted the show a little while ago. and said, got to disagree with you on a 2-loss team not making the playoffs. I believe that if South Carolina wins out and the other games go the way I'm predicting, that South Carolina could backdoor their way in with 3 losses.
It would be amazing if that were to happen. I'd love to see that happen.
Allow me.
I don't think it will, but I mean, there's a small percentage of a chance.
Allow me to be the unfortunate wet blanket on this party, because you know I'm a fan. You know I'm back in. You know I'm all in on the Shane train. You're not going to the playoffs, South Carolina. It's not that I don't want you to. I would love to see Clemson and South Carolina both in the play. I would love to see Clemson play South Carolina. Could you imagine the rivalry, the hype, the magnificence? If you had a Clemson-South Carolina matchup in the playoffs, you think the Palmetto Bowl is nasty. Could you imagine? Now, the Palmetto Bowl already is a playoff eliminator this year for me, because I'm not saying South Carolina has no chance. If I recall correctly, if South Carolina beats Wofford and Clemson on the way out the door, their playoff odds are like 21-ish%. They're like 1 in 5 that they could go.
It for sure eliminates Clemson if South Carolina wins.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. If you're going to get a 3-loss team into the playoffs, it is going to have to be a 3-loss team that has done something special. And as much as Clemson fans aren't going to want to hear it, if South Carolina knocks off Clemson, that would be 5 of their final 6 games that are wins over top 25 teams. You understand how ridiculous that is? That doesn't happen, right? That is a special team doing something special. That team would be the best. That's why they have a 1 in 5 chance to get in. If the same situation happened to a team out of the ACC, they'd have like a 1 in 100 chance of getting it. I believe that. But it is a playoff eliminator, because I do think Clemson can backdoor their way into an at-large bid with 2 losses. Even if they don't go to the ACC title game, they will need a lot of help. They will need a fistful of upsets over the next 2 weeks. But if they lose to South Carolina, there's no chance. And obviously South Carolina with 1 more loss, there's no chance for them. This thing's already hyped. Could you imagine? They can't do it this year. You can't have both teams in this year. Could you imagine if both teams did find a way to go? Could you imagine a Palmetto Bowl, but it's in the playoffs? Neutral site somewhere on the other side of the country. And we get to see which one of those 2 teams brings the most fans out there, fills up that stadium. Oh, it'd be incredible. Incredible. All right, it is 7:04 in the morning. I do have real quick before we get to the water cooler cheat sheet, a bit of a programming note. We are moving the Kyle Mountain interview. Head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits will join us at 8 a.m. straight up. So we got your water cooler cheat sheet right here. Then we'll do a short segment on the NFL coming up next. Then we will have Denton Day, the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, at 7:40 this morning. We'll talk to him about his thoughts on the college football playoff rankings and more. 8 o'clock, Kyle Mountain, the head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, at 8:20. Lonzo and I spin the wheel of football. We will put all 32 NFL teams into one of 4 categories: Super Bowl contender, playoff threat, pretender, or bad football team. We'll do that coming up at 8:20, and then the rest of the show after that belongs to you, ladies and gentlemen. But it is 7:05. You have 55 minutes until you've got to be to the office. You got to get clocked in. You got to get locked in. You got to get logged in. You got to respond to all those passive-aggressive emails from the boss, and then you get your first break of the day. And I suggest you stand up, you walk down the hallway, get those steps in. Make sure that pedometer's tick, 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 ticking up and down. Got to keep that heart rate up, and nothing's going to get your heart rate up like talking sports. Am I right? Yes, I am. And if you're going to talk sports, you need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, "You must chill!" even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office this AM and start talking sports with your coworkers. You don't want to look like a damn fool. That's why you hang out with us. That's why you're in the Armada, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to it. Here are the 3 sports stories you need to know. Let's go with item number 1. As we spent the majority of the first hour talking about the college football playoff rankings for week 13 have dropped, ladies and gentlemen, and to the surprise of exactly 0 people across America, the Oregon Ducks remain your number 1 overall team in said college football playoff rankings. The Ducks at 11-0 are one of 3 undefeated teams inside of the top 25. They are obviously the highest rated undefeated team. You don't get to the next undefeated team until you get down to the Indiana Hoosiers down at number 5. Between them, number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Texas, and number 4, Penn State. Notre Dame checks in at number 6 at 9-1. Alabama jumps Miami to get to number 7. They are 8-2 after a 45-point win over Mercer. Miami was on the bye. They pay for it by moving up just 1 slot, where the other teams all around them moved up 2 or 3. Ole Miss moves up 2 spots to number 9. Georgia up 2 to number 10. Down 4 spots are the Tennessee Volunteers. They made the mistake not of losing a second game, but of losing a second game late in the season as they fall to Georgia this weekend. It cost them as they have to go behind Georgia at number 11. 9-1 Boise State is number 12. They're ahead of 13 SMU, 14 BYU, and number 15, the Colt of Texas A&M. A&M 1 spot ahead of number 16, Deion Sanders, Colorado Buffaloes. The Buffs, Lonzo, are now an even bigger favorite to win the Big 12 than they were a week ago. They were hovering around 3-1. That line has decreased down to plus 125, almost even money to outright win the Big 12 this year.
How awesome that would be to go in and coach your sons to something like that.
I mean, there's a lot of other kids on the team too. Like Bill Goldberg's, just for the record. Bill Goldberg's son. The Dion and
he's going to be an
Goldberg.
excellent wrestler someday, by the way, because he's already had a contract. He's been in the ring.
His dad wasn't. Hot take. We'll come to that later because the 2 of them had an interaction. That'll be part of the audio blitz. We'll do that at 8:40 since Kyle Mountain's moving to 8 o'clock. Clemson and South Carolina, as we mentioned just mere moments ago, 17-18. Clemson 17, South Carolina 18. Both of those teams up 3 spots and now right next to each other. Both have a tune-up, warm-up game this weekend in the Palmetto Bowl. Palmetto Bowl is next weekend down in Clemson.
What the heck was that?
I said
dude?
Palmetto,
So?
like with a D.
So?
It's Palmetto.
No,
with
it's
2
not.
T's.
I don't know. I mean,
What do you mean you don't know?
Maybe you need to check with the people in Clinton.
I don't need. That's the first place I'm not checking on how to pronounce a word. With all due respect to the people of where, Lonzo?
Clinton.
Sorry, Clinton. I can see the T. It's on your sign. If you want to be Clinton, then take the T out, put an extra N, make it Clinnon, and then I'll be in. But until then, much like putting chili on a hot dog makes it a chili dog, if you put a T in the name, it's Clinton.
So Palmetto. Why would you? I mean, that doesn't.
I would.
it's
That's not how I
dude.
normally say it. I say Palmetto, but I said Palmetto as if it's
Is it Palmetto or Palmetto? I don't know.
Palmetto.
Okay, fine.
Palmetto Bowl. Blah, blah, blah. 17-18, the 2 teams that will be competing in the Palmetto Bowl. Army is number 19. Tulane, Arizona State, Iowa State, Mizzou, UNLV, and Illinois out of the Big Ten. Wrap up your top 25. Just outside of the top 25, those just outside of the rankings, Kansas State, Washington State, Ville, and LSU after their loss to their ass whooping at the hands of the Florida Gators are now outside of the top 25. Let's go to item number 2. The Charlotte Hornets, I am disappointed to report because I know that all of you were very invested in the second best thing the NBA offers up after the NBA championship playoffs, and that is, of course, the NBA's in-season tournament. The Charlotte Hornets drop 115 to 116 on the road last night at the Brooklyn Nets, and they are effectively, though not mathematically, they're pretty much eliminated from NBA Cup contention. You had 29 points out of Brandon Miller. You got 21 from Miles Bridges. No other Hornet top 20 points last night. It was a very frustrating night for LaMelo Ball. LaMelo has been LaMelo balling out for the last couple of games. Not so much last night. 3 of 13 from the floor. All of those 3 that were converted were 3-point shots, but he was 3 of 8 from behind the arc, 3 of 13 on the night. The Hornets shot 46% from the floor. They allowed the Brooklyn Nets to shoot 50% from the floor. More importantly, Brooklyn 44% from 3. Now, interestingly enough, the Bucks shot over 50% from deep, 54.1% from range. They were 20 of 37 from behind the arc. Statistically speaking, this game was everything that you would expect a 116-115 final to be. You had nearly an identical number on the steal line. The Buzz actually out-rebounded the Nets 44-36. They actually own the offensive glass, 13 offensive swipes to 10. The one problem and the one reason Brooklyn won this game, Charlotte turned the ball over 21 times. They took it away only 13. You were talking about 8 free possessions for the Brooklyn Nets. They turned it into a 1-point victory. I actually think that this team, despite a 5-9 record, I actually think this team is on its way. I really do. I like Trey Mann a lot. He had 19 points off the bench last night. I think Saloon is got a lot of potential. 11 points last night, but just 2 of 2 from the floor. He was 6 of 7 from the stripe. Why? Because he went to the paint and he took contact. I like the foundation of this team. I do think they are going to have to go get a veteran. I think they're going to have to get somebody that can kind of be the counter to LaMelo Ball, because when teams can do what the Nets did to LaMelo last night and effectively getting his head frustrated, get him off his game a little bit, there's not a lot of other guys that can pick it up. Brandon Miller can. Miles Bridges on a good night. He was 8 of 14 from the floor, 5 of 9 from range last night. Miles Bridges can help, but I think they got to go find a big man before anything else. They got to find somebody that can get down low. It was starting quality performances in the paint, but I do like the foundation of this Hornets team. All right, let's get to item number 3. Jacob said, name a better logo than the old school Hornets logo. I'll tell you this, Jacob. I own 2 pieces of NBA attire, team attire, that aren't New Orleans Pelicans. You want to guess what they are? I've told you one many times. I own a Dirk Nowitzki Dallas Mavericks jersey because Dirk's one of my favorite players of all time. I love Dirk. So on a Dirk jersey. You know what the other piece of attire I own is? A throwback vintage Charlotte Hornets hoodie, which I haven't broken out yet. A, because it's cold, and B, because last year some jerk spilled red wine on the white sleeve. It's a teal vest with white long sleeves and a white hood, and somebody spilled red wine on the shoulder, and I haven't been able to get the stain out yet. As soon as I get that stain lifted, that Buzz logo is going on. I agree. I love the old Hornets logo. All right, item number 3, the MLB free agency period is officially underway. Yesterday, 12 players had the opportunity to either accept or decline their player option, their qualifying offer from their MLB franchises. If they accepted it, it would pay out the mean salary of MLB's 125 highest paid players. That number, $21.05 million. So if you accept the qualifying offer, $21.05 million, and you stay with the team that you're on. However, if you reject the qualifying offer, as 12 All-Stars did yesterday, if you reject the qualifying offer, you go into free agency immediately, and the team that you rejected the qualifying offer from gets compensation in the way of draft picks. A fistful of draft picks to lower spending teams will go in the first round. If you are one of the higher spending teams in MLB, you will catch a draft pick in the 4th round or later. We do know the 12 players that have rejected their qualifying offer. Juan Soto rejected his from the Yankees. Alex Bregman, Willie Adams, Pete Alonso, Corbin Burns, and Atlanta's Max Fried all rejected their qualifying offers, all officially free agents. Now, for most of these players, it makes sense. The reason there's only 12 is because when you turn down the $21.05 million and you become a free agent, if you accept it, you get 21.05. If you reject it, you can sign a higher contract somewhere else. Max Fried is getting a hell of a lot more than $21.05 million per year based on the performance that young man has given to the Atlanta Braves the last couple of years. The other thing is you can still re-sign with the team. You're just saying, if you're bringing me back to the ATL or Philly or New York or wherever these all-stars want to go, I'm going to get a deal. Juan Soto is worth more than $21.05 million per year. Max Fried is worth more than $21.05 million per year. Corbin Burns, Pete Alonso, these guys are worth more than that. And by going to the open market, they can say to, again, New York or Philly or Atlanta, I'm willing to be here, but I want to see what my market value is. And then you guys can sign me for market value. I honestly think there is a chance, probably not a great one, but I actually think there is a chance that Max Fried may be willing to allow Atlanta a small hometown discount. Of course, you will be in competition for the Dodgers because Max Fried is a California kid. So you will probably have to beat the Dodgers, but I don't think you would have to match, say, Milwaukee if they wanted to make an offer. Anyway, those 12 teams officially free agents. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, got a couple of NFL stories we need to get to. Then Denton Day, host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, joins us at 7:40. Kyle Mountain, the head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, at 8 o'clock. Lonzo and I spin the wheel of NFL football at 8:20. After that, I don't know. We'll see. It's the Rob Brown Show. It's the Fan Upstate. Why am I getting targeted with Rascal Flatts ads? The most soccer mom band of all time. I know, and then my phone immediately targeted me with an ad. Big Brother's always listening, boys. Here's my thing.
Why do you not like Rascal Flatts?
Because they're just soccer mom music.
Raunchy enough for you?
No, they're just boring. They're just.
What makes them boring?
I mean, subjectively to me, they're just not entertaining. You know what they are? They feel like one of those bands that people that aren't cool listen to because they think they're cool. And I'm not saying they're bad. If they're your band, have at. I'm not like judging you for liking them, but to me, they're just they're so much better. If you want country rock out there, they're so much better than Rascal Flatts. It's one of those things that they're just not for me, and that's okay.
The original from Life is a Highway is better than their.
I agree.
Yeah.
Entirely. That's like kind of part of what wraps up. Like, the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate Denton Day of Sirius XM's College Football Overtime. Joins us in the next segment to talk a little college football. We will get his thoughts on the college football playoff rankings that dropped yesterday. As it stands right now, if the playoffs were today, shockingly, and I've done the research, they're not. Though I do have to tell you, just me, or does it feel like football season started like a week ago, and here we are with 2 more regular season weeks left to play, and then it's bowl season.
Dude, Thanksgiving's next week.
I know.
I mean, it's rivalry week starting next week.
When I was growing up, and the elders in my life said, enjoy it now, because once you get, like, the older you get, the faster the time passes, right? Like, I always thought that, like, there's no way, right? No, that's totally legit. Yesterday, it was week 1. Last week, it was June. And I was over here fighting for my life to get you guys interested in baseball so that we had something to talk about besides what color socks is Clemson going to wear this weekend. And here we are, 2 weeks left to play, and the college football playoff rankings are solidifying themselves.
I can tell you moments in time where time actually slows down, like for me this entire week. When you're going on vacation the next week, you know how that works.
Yep.
The days last a lot longer then.
You ain't wrong.
So if you could just plan a vacation every other week, then time would slow down.
First round buys and the the conference, including the SEC, the conference championship games.
You know what? I'm gonna be interested to see in this is, does a bye hurt you?
I'm glad you said that, because that is actually where I was going to go, but in 2 different directions. Number 1, I do not think a bye in football, great one, hurts you as much as a bye in, say, the baseball playoffs do, right? Like, because baseball, it's about rhythm and momentum and blah, 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 blah. And I do think if you're a team that is heavily predicated on a timing-based offense, it can be dangerous. But I would also tell you that in my experience over the years talking to coaches at every level of football from NFL on down, most coaches love a bye. And they love a bye because while it may throw off timing in an offense, getting healthy is the most important thing to a football team. It's not that way in baseball.
See, I understand all that, but I also know that, at least I believe, that there are some teams that are playing better than they should, and they're just hot at the right time, and their talent not as equal to some of the teams that they're beating. But you take a week off, and some of that, you lose some of that momentum, and you go out and you play to the level that you should be playing.
And again, may not be unfair. And I will be interested to see this year for the college football playoffs with a 12-team format for the first time, if that comes into play. And I am intrigued by that. But there's actually another element to that, great one, because, we've been focused on the conference champions who will catch a bye. I had this thought last night. There's going to be, great one, there's going to be some teams in the first round that are on a bye. What do I mean by that? We've spent quite a bit of time the last 2 days talking about the comments of Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin has pointed out that there are some SEC teams that do not want to be selected to play in the conference championship. Because if you take a third loss in the SEC championship game, the belief is that the playoff selection committee may very well drop you out of a spot. Whereas if you do not play and you enter the final rankings with only 2 losses, even if a team that has 3 because they played in 1 extra game, you won't be dropped any further for not playing in a conference game, whereas teams that do and lose will. And I think he's got a point. But think about this. Let's talk about, and we're using Ole Miss as the example because Lane Kiffin's the one who brought this up. But let's say, great one, that Ole Miss, everything goes right. They make the SEC championship. Let's say they do lose it to Texas. Let's say it's a battle, a war, physical, brutal, hard-nosed, back and forth, up and down the field, just whole time. Just an absolute dogfight. And let's say because of that performance against the number 1 team, let's say, great one, that Ole Miss, the playoff selection committee goes, you know what? You're in. You got 3 losses, but you get a bid. You get a bid. You're going in as number 12. Number 12 plays number 5 in the opening round. Number 12 plays number 5. Number 5 this year, it is very possible, does not play in their conference championship game. Does not play in it. It's a possibility, not a for certain, a possibility. This is probably also a lot more likely for teams in like the 2-11, 3-10 matchups. But there is a possibility that a team that loses its conference championship game could end up playing a team that does not participate in its conference championship game. You know what that means? That means one of those teams has a bye. That means one team is out there in conference championship weekend in a dogfight, playing for a conference championship and a bye, loses it, and then the very next week has to spin it around to play a team that was off last week. Still got the exact same bid. Now, realistically speaking, more than likely in that scenario, and more often than not, the team that participated in the conference championship will likely be a higher seed and will have that game in the first round, though that will not necessarily always be true. We will find out, again, how the College Football Playoff Selection Committee decides to treat conference championship losers. But even if it is a home game, you have a team that had a week off to rest, to relax, to get healthy, to take the ice bath, to stay in the massage chair, to go into the sauna for a handful of hours, to get healthy, to get right, to get good, to get comfortable. Whereas you were out there likely in a conference championship game, likely in a dogfight. There is an element to the bye here that I think is interesting to discuss. And the element of the bye is not the first round of the college football playoffs. It's conference championship weekend. It's conference championship loser taking on conference championship non-participant who caught a bye. And on top of that, there is the other element of the bye. Richard Johnson of CBS on CBS HQ said this.
What's a bigger deal? 3 losses or the bye?
I think people are really overlooking the bye week aspect.
Huge.
The bye week aspect of things where if you don't get a bye and you have to play, but you lost your conference championship game, you may be playing a team coming off of a bye. You may be playing a team that didn't go to its conference championship game where you did. Therefore, you've played 6, 7, 8 straight weeks of football, and you're getting a team fresh. Yeah, it's a home game, but you're getting a team fresh. The bye is such a massive deal. And I think a lot of people are just kind of poo-pooing.
Yeah, I agree. Had that thought, heard Richard say it. I'm like, good take. I'm interested in seeing how this plays out. Let's do this. Let's run to a break and come back here in a minute, because I would like to run this scenario and others and find out what he thinks was the biggest deal from yesterday's college football playoff rankings release with Denton Day, the host of Sirius XM's College Football Overtime and all-around brilliant guy. We'll talk to Denton Day when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
New life.
All right, guys, got a 30-second, and we will come back with Denton Day. Don't go anywhere. Denton Day, you magnificent son of a gun. How are you, buddy?
What up, fellas? How we doing?
Good, brother. How are you?
Chilling, man. No complaints. No complaints.
I'm glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it. Thanks for coming by again, as always.
Yeah, of course.
What's your favorite go-to comfort television show?
Probably Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I got to get into that.
Oh,
I haven't started it yet, but I've heard it's fantastic.
You in particular would love it.
I somehow Brooklyn Nine-Nine clips have worked their way into my algorithm on my Instagram reels, and there have been so many of them that I'm like, This show looks genuinely hilarious. And I'm a big Terry Crews guy. Isn't everyone in America?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Andy Samberg guy, but like everybody else in that cast rocks.
I'm not a Sandberg guy generally either, but like this is the one show that I think he excels in.
All right, it's going to the top of the next up list. I just started a rewatch of Ted Lasso, and I'm binging that. That's like my put it on in the background and just enjoy it while I'm working show.
Yeah, that's on the list of comfort watches.
Oh, for sure. Love Ted Lasso. The problem is anytime I start watching a new show, I end up not doing anything else but watching it. And I feel like that's one of those shows that's going to make that happen.
Yeah.
Every single Wednesday at 7:40, we are honored to be joined by the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. He is Denton Day. Joins us here on the program. You can also catch him on 106.7 The Fan, taking some time to talk some college ball. What's up, big dog?
Fellas, how we doing? Another great week of college football, but unfortunately that means another week closer to the end of college football. But we're here. We are thriving.
We were just talking about that, didn't I? I always thought the adults were full of crap when they said, "Oh, when you get older, time passes faster." And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's watches. They work for a reason." Yeah. Dude, it feels like we kicked off week 1 yesterday. It feels like you and I were doing BetQL shows breaking down conference championship projections like 3 days ago, and here we are.
Yeah, time only flies fast when it's the fun stuff. The stuff that sucks that you don't want to do, it feels like it takes forever. But the fun stuff always goes by very quickly.
Always. Speaking of fun stuff, let's get into it, my guy. I want to get to the comments of Lane Kiffin from earlier this week about there being multiple SEC coaches that don't want to play in conference championships, and it's opened this whole can of worms of did the 12-team playoff devalue conference championships, and we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do that, anything about yesterday's college football playoff rankings that jumped off the page? I was a little bit taken aback that even with the loss to Georgia Tech, Miami on the bye got jumped by a 2-loss Alabama team. That was a little interesting. No shock that Boise State jumps BYU, but also it puts Boise in a spot if they went out to probably earn a bye in the first round as one of the four highest ranked college conference champions. What came off the page to you last night when these rankings came out?
Yeah, when it felt like everybody was arguing about the strength of resume of Indiana as if that was going to show in this week's rankings, the biggest surprise is that when you break this thing down bracketed, you see Boise State as a 4 seed with a bye. Like that's hard to fathom, in that that's a group of 5 team that's going to have a bye. But I would also argue, Rob, if you're going to drop BYU as much as they did, and they did because they lost to a Kansas team that for a majority of the season has not been very good, why would you not just put Colorado over them? Because Colorado's playing the best football of its season right now, where it feels like in the last couple of weeks, BYU has just been narrowly escaping. I don't know that the resume is that much different to the point where BYU, who just lost to Kansas while Colorado is shellacking teams, would have BYU over. I mean, obviously the 1 loss versus the 2 loss thing, but they've shown everywhere else that they can kind of skate by a 1 loss, 2 loss conversation if they think the 2 loss team is playing better right now. So hence the reasons you just mentioned, Alabama jumping Miami. So like there's inconsistencies there, but I don't know why they just haven't pulled the trigger and put Colorado ahead of BYU at this point.
I don't disagree with that. I do think, Denton Day, your thoughts on this take. I do think that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee leans very heavily on the it'll work itself out kind of philosophy, right? And it bothers me, and I said this on the show earlier this morning, the reason that I am so hypercritical of the rankings from the first Tuesday that they drop all the way to the end is if we allow what I consider to be philosophical inconsistencies early, then that breeds a foundation for those philosophical inequities to maintain themselves all the way to the very last rankings when the bracket is determined. I think the best thing college football could do would be stick a camera and a microphone in the selection committee office when they're putting the rankings together so that we all have an idea of how they come together. Because then I'm going to tell you right now, you're the most brilliant college football mind I know, and I'm willing to wager you don't know what their process is either, because I can't figure it out no matter how much I try.
No, I have no feel for it. You asked me when I jumped on here what my favorite comfort show was. Did you ever watch the show Big Brother?
I did not, but I know of it. I never did the reality thing, and I feel like I missed out on a lot of American zeitgeist because of that. But I know
a little
it.
bit, but like for a point in time, that was my comfort show. But one of the things that I disliked the most about it was that there was a lot of people that played the game in an effort to not get blood on their hands. They just wanted to kind of skate through without ever making any sort of big decision. And it feels like now that's what the rankings do. They want to force the actual games to decide the hard decisions for them. And then we have seen in years past that never really comes fully to fruition. Eventually, they are going to have to make a big decision. And the problem is by not doing it for the first 4 or 5 rankings, they don't show their process at all. So they make a tough decision, but then we have no idea how or why they came to that decision because we don't know what factored into it in the weeks leading up to it in their point of references that they then use to make that decision. And that's kind of what I feel like is happening now. I don't love it. In fact, I really don't like it. If you are going to be on that committee, you need to be able to be a big boy or big girl, but put on your adult pants and make an adult decision and not feel like you're going to get scrutinized for it. And even if you are going to get scrutinized for it, send Ward Manuel's ass up there to deal with it. Like, if you're not Ward Manuel, you're not answering questions on this thing. So, like, it baffles me that we have this issue time and time again. And before it was Manuel, it was, Rob Mullins. And before it was somebody else. So, like, there's like 13 people in the room. Nobody wants to make a tough decision. And then you're just sending this guy out there to kind of take all the bullets for you.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And last one, and then we'll move on to some of the specifics within it. But I guess the biggest problem I have, Denton Day, is I don't know with as cyclical and the circle of suck with X beat Y, Y beat Z, Z beat A all the way around that we experience every year. I don't know if there is a way to do this outside of it's just a room full of people with subjective opinions, and the opinion that gains the most support is going to be the rankings. And that's fine. I can come to grips with that. I still think the reason for that subjective opinion should have to be put out there. I think we have gotten to the point that we allow people on a macro scale. I'm not just talking football. I'm talking politically. I'm talking across everything. I think we allow a lot of people to have beliefs based in opinion, Denton Day, and those opinions, we don't challenge them anymore. We just let people have whatever opinion they want without challenging them or demanding that people back those opinions up. And when we let the college football playoff selection committee work inside of that sphere, you end up with Florida State, Alabama's, and really no justification for that, which leaves a lot of us out here feeling very confused and frustrated.
I don't understand how in an era where you are so high off of TV ratings, like everybody is slapping the arm and saying, give us the most television ratings we can possibly get, how they haven't done the bit where they slap a microphone in there. Because you will not get a better reality television in sports that doesn't actually take place on the field than 13 people in a room arguing about Indiana and Texas or Indiana and Penn State. Like, give us that those rankings would be sky high because I would eat it up. You would eat it up. I mean, we want that kind of coverage. We've wanted that kind of coverage for nearly a decade, and they still don't give it to us because I want to see who's fighting for who. Like, for example, you bring up Alabama, Florida State. Was that unanimous? Was there one particular person or maybe a small group of people that were absolutely dying on the sword for the ACC? I think that would save a lot of issues, and I think it would be great now. Like, you have 12 teams. I want to see people argue between Indiana and Notre Dame. I know they didn't anticipate that.
How much more fun was the run-up to last year if there's a camera and a mic in there? And what we found out, Denton Day, was that a large portion of the room said it should be Florida State. They're 13-0. They won a conference. And it turned out that it was a bunch of SEC and Big Ten alum that pushed them out to get Bama in, right? Like all of a sudden, I'll tell you this, I would hate it, but I'm damn sure taking time out of my Tuesday night. So I don't watch the Tuesday night ranking reveal show. I can just read them the minute that the show is over. I don't need to spend an hour listening to talking heads. And I mean, listen to talking heads like Rob Brown and Denton Day, trust me, but I don't need to do it. I can just watch them or read them right afterwards. You put a mic and a camera in that room, dude, it might be the most compelling sports talk entertainment phenomenon of all time.
I mean, you won't find anything better. And as much as I don't mind the talking heads there. Like I worked with McElroy for a couple months at Sirius, so like I like hearing some of his opinions, even if I don't agree with them. But it pales in comparison to listening to the actual decision makers make a case, plead a case, showcase their case, and do everything that we're already doing on social media, but see people with actual power to influence those decisions do it themselves.
I do not disagree. Denton Day, hosts college football overtime on Sirius XM, joins us every single Wednesday at this time to talk college football. Let's address the Lane Kiffin comments. I want your thought. Lane said, hey, listen, there's a bunch of SEC coaches of these 2 lost teams that don't want to be picked because if you go and you lose, you're probably getting booted from the playoffs, whereas if you don't go, you can't lose, and you won't. I floated this theory earlier. I want your reaction to his comments first, Denton Day, but also I floated a theory earlier. I can fix this, make me the commish. If you go play for a conference championship and you lose, you cannot be dropped behind a team that did not participate in their conference championship game. If you go to the conference championship and you win, you can be elevated. I think if we can remove the punishment, Denton Day, then a lot of these 2-loss SEC teams probably fight for a conference championship. I'm not saying they're not doing it, but Lane Kiffin just said that they're not. I think this is of all the issues we're having right now, one of the most easily fixable.
So do you know how the current tiebreaker is set up in the SEC? Where does Ole Miss fall in the current tiebreaker of those 2 lost teams? Are they going to the championship or are they not going to the championship?
It is going to be impacted by how many teams are involved in the tiebreaker. So there are some where if X 2 lost teams are involved, Ole Miss does go. And if X or if Y are involved, then Ole Miss would not. Listen, we're not going to know until the end of rivalry weekend because you've got the Egg Bowl on Friday. You've got Auburn, Alabama, which, yeah, Auburn stinks, but you and I both know they're going to have the best they've ever got for Alabama. It may not matter, Denton Day. There may only be 1 2-loss team standing by the end of rivalry weekend, but if there's not, then this question that Lane just stirred up about do conference championships still matter in a 12-team playoff era, now that question is going to be back on the table.
It feels like his comments were more of, hey, everybody, let's make sure that we're all trying so we don't have to go to the conference championship. So I respect Lane for it. You know, he's hiding it in his Lane-isms, but he's basically saying, I would prefer not to do that because if Ole Miss does it and loses, I mean, right now they're ranked 10th. Like the nice thing I would say, Rob, about the college football playoff committee, which I don't say many nice things about them right now, but they do kind of tell you how they feel about certain teams. So for example, like we had this whole debate last week about Georgia. Well, right now, Georgia's ranked number, I guess in the bracket, they're ranked number 11. They're falling out of the college football playoff if they lose a 3rd game. And Ole Miss is somewhere similar because they're on that back half of the rankings. So it doesn't surprise me that these SEC coaches are coming to the realization that a conference championship, if we do not win, is not that beneficial for us.
And I think that's kind of the interesting thing because I know obviously fans want to see their team go win, especially SEC, Big Ten fans. Like we want to see our team go win a conference title. We want to hang the banner and all that. But I asked this question earlier in the week of the listeners to this show, Denton Day. I said, look, I'm a magical football genie and I can grant you one of 2 scenarios. Scenario A is I can send you to the college. I can send you to a guaranteed conference championship win, guaranteed conference championship, but you don't get to go to the playoff. Or I can make you a playoff team, guarantee you're in the playoffs. You do not win the conference, but guarantee you're a playoff team and you're just 1 of 12. No guaranteed wins or anything like that. And the overwhelming majority of people said, yeah, I'd rather be in the playoffs than win a conference championship. And I think that's why this question is a valid one.
I'd do the same thing, to be honest. I'd rather be in the playoff because there is something a little bit more powerful about winning the national championship, or at least being in the realm of possibility of winning that national championship than winning a conference championship and getting nothing. I mean, you could have, a couple of years ago, you could have done the same thing with a conference championship in a New Year's Six game, and it might have been somewhat similar, and then people started opting out of New Year's Six games, and then I think it fell back in favor of the college football playoff, or in terms of the conference championship. But now with the college football playoff having 12, like, it would have been really interesting if you asked that question 2 years ago, where there was only 4 teams. So I hate the devaluation of a conference championship, because all of the people that I know that played this game at a high level, who played in conference championships, were always very, very high on what that meant and the goals, and achieving that goal with their brothers, how important that was. But that's just kind of the new college football. Saban told us this was going to happen, by the way, in like 2014, and it did.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Denton Day joins us, the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, every single Wednesday at 7:40. Last one, and we'll let you go, Denton Day. South Carolina, 3 losses. I've heard the Georgia fans crow and how they got the toughest schedule in football. I don't think they do. I think South Carolina's is a tougher schedule. If they win out, they got Wofford in a tune-up. They got Clemson on the road. That's going to be another top 18 game when that one goes down. If South Carolina wins, that'll be 5 of their last 6, all wins against ranked top 25 teams. Is there an outside path to maybe the 12th seed at large for the Gamecocks of South Carolina?
Outside chance, yes. They need a little bit of chaos to happen. They need a couple of these 2-loss SEC teams to catch another loss by them. But I'll tell you what, and you guys know this, that South Carolina-Clemson game is going to be as juiced up as it's been in years with the way that both those two teams are playing. And I would say right now, because Michigan's not very good, because Auburn's not very good, that looks like it's going to be the best game rivalry weekend. I'm incredibly excited for it.
Denton Day hosts SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. You can also check Denton out on 106.7 The Fan, and occasionally BetQL makes the mistake of making every other on-air tandem look ridiculous by comparison, because we team up and talk a little college football every now and then on the BetQL network. My guy, as always, thanks for coming by, brother.
Fellas, appreciate it.
Always. Denton Day. Follow him on X at the Denton Day. When we come back here in just a minute, we'll be joined by the head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Kyle Mountain. That's after Lonzo, the head coach of Sports Flashes, does this.
Drop down and give me 50. I'll need that 20 stuff. College football playoff rankings dropped last night. Oregon maintains their hold on number 1, followed by Ohio State, the Ohio State University, Texas, Penn State, and undefeated Indiana in the top 5. Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, and Georgia finish out the top 10. Boise State at number 12 would receive a bye if the ranking holds. Colorado checks in at 16, 1 spot ahead of 17th Clemson, who is just 1 spot above the South Carolina Gamecocks at 18. The Charlotte Hornets have been effectively eliminated from the NBA in-season cup tournament. Anybody know what that is? Anyone like that other than Rob? I don't know. After a 116-115 loss to Brooklyn last night, Brandon Miller led all Hornets scorers with 29, and Miles Bridges added 21 points. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as Fern Paladins take on the Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels right here on the Fan Upstate. Yeah, Steven. I mean, dude. That would be really bad.
As a matter of fact, last night hosted an event, and I still...
How are we talking to him?
Stream.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for me next Saturday because South Carolina, Clemson, and Ohio State, Michigan play at the same time. It won't be difficult. The choice has already been made at home. We will be watching Ohio State, Michigan, even if I wanted to watch South Carolina, Clemson live. Lisa's in charge of the big TV. I could go to the other TV if I wanted, which is still pretty big, but not as big as the big one. You can't double screen that. I mean, you just can't. I got to give my entire attention to it. So I'll watch the South Carolina Clemson game after the Ohio State Michigan game,
and then watch a game when you already know the result. I find it really tough. I mean, I can, but I'm watching it for the X's and O's. I don't get excited about watching a game I already know who won.
Well, there's a difference as far as Ohio State. As far as South Carolina and Clemson goes, that's work. I mean, I definitely invested in the outcome. I want to see South Carolina destroy Clemson, but still, that's work. So I can watch that in a work capacity.
Speaking of work, a man who put in the work last night, Kyle Mountain. What's up, brother?
How we doing? Quick turnaround.
Miss Lisa texted Zoe and said, "You have no choice."
yeah, we're watching Ohio State, Michigan. I know that. That's fine. Plus, I want to watch Ohio State destroy Michigan, and hopefully it happens. And then I can watch South Carolina do the same thing to Clemson, and then I can go to work happy Saturday night.
Coach, how we feeling this morning, man?
Feeling good. How you doing?
We're here, buddy. We're here. Nothing like a little open bar party last night and then that 3:30 a.m. wake-up call.
Yeah, I was going to ask what time you were up and at 'em this morning. So
too early.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, it was fun, though. It was good.
It was a good time last night, though. The boys were having a good time. To get Ben Freeman, El Capitan, and the Presidente in a twerk off has got to be one of the just the best moments in Swamp Rabbit history.
It's a unique event. Put it at that.
I think that's a good way to describe it.
That was something. I was surprised that Tim didn't request all recording devices shut down for that one.
It's only every employee in the organization with video evidence that it happened now, man.
Yeah, it's
I might see if I can get Alexis. Like that might have to be the new video for a goal celly.
No.
I think I can get that up on the Jumbotron for a goal celly after that.
You'll just see Tim all sad every time we score. We don't need that.
Oh, dude, he's going to – listen, if I can talk her into it, he's going to kick my ass, but I accept it.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the dollar amounts for auction, either high or low?
No, it was in line with last year, with the exception of $30K to get Lordo to do a synchronized figure skating. You know, like I think that really drove up last year's number.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We also had we ended up running out of time, but we had like 11 or 12 more up there on stage to try to fit in. We just ran out of time.
Oh wow,
yeah.
That's surprising.
All right, here we go, Coach.
Yep.
Here we go. Our number 3, ladies and gentlemen, of the Rob Brown Show is live right here on the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Alonzo with you as we roll through the midweek edition of the broadcast, halftime of the show, halftime of the week. Now, ordinarily, throughout the year, we're going to have our Greenville Swamp Rabbit update at 8:30. But when you get the head coach and the head coach says, hey, I got to do it at 8, I got meetings, I got skates, I got practices, I got boys I got to get trained up. I'm assuming he's got to get the shirt and tie pressed because we've got some home games this weekend, and my man's got maybe one of the most GQ looks when holding the clipboard at the crib. Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joins us on the show. What up, Coach?
How we doing? That's I don't know about GQ. That's a little much, but I appreciate the kind words. But
it's crisp.
Yeah, I'll get
it's
here.
Crisp.
Crisp is good. I'll take crisp. Yeah, that's what we're going for. So
we can work with that.
Is that what the kids these days say? Crisp? I'm just curious.
There's no world in which I know what the kids say these days.
All right.
Like It's just not. Last night was the Habitat for Humanity Gala. Every year, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits put that event on the floor of the Bon Secours Wellness Arena in conjunction with the arena. We had the players come out, the coaches come out, and they do different challenges that are asked of them by the tables who sponsored this event. And what I came to recognize last night as I was walking around, Kyle, talking to the fellas on the floor, kind of trying to let them know what's coming up, is that it takes a gift to be able to communicate with the youth of America, because they were tossing around lingo and jingo that left me in the back seat. And I'm only 39, man.
They're younger guys, so there's that, and then mix that with the hockey lingo as well. So there's a lot of verbiage going around. But I thought you hung in there really well. I thought you did a nice job for yourself. So nobody would have known. I wouldn't have guessed it. So you kept up. So it was all
fake
good.
it till you make it is without a doubt the best career advice I have for anybody in sports, bud.
Yeah, no, that's the key. That's number one. And once you got that down, then you're all set. So.
Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. All right, coach, let's start off by talking about last weekend and specifically the two home games. I know we gotta kind of break them up because Saturday night was one thing and Sunday night was something totally different. So let's get the unpleasant part out of the way. 8-0 L to the Florida Everblades last Saturday evening. It was a bit of a shock. In your estimation and looking at it in the rearview mirror, getting some tape time down, etc., what happened in that game and what was the difference to turn it around and get a 3-2 win the next day over the exact same hockey squad?
Yeah, that was obviously just kind of one of those games. I thought we came out a little bit flat. I just don't think we had the kind of the energy that we needed, or just we weren't very sharp, early on. It was okay, not like a disaster early, but we just didn't quite have our game, off the jump. And then, things kind of just unraveled from there. Obviously, they get, a few consecutively. And, I think just the wheels kind of fell off, and a couple bounces here and there, and just again not having our game. You do that against a good team, a really good team, and so I think you're kind of asking for trouble. So it was one of those nights where I just think we were, once that starts to happen, you just start to fight it a little bit. You're gripping the stick too tight, and we're just getting away from the things that we do well. So at that point and post game, it was less about what happened that night, and the only question that mattered to me and for the guys was how do we respond? The best thing about that night is we had a game the next day and we had that quick turnaround time. You don't want to have to sit with that for, consecutive days. And so it's like, look, we're not going to sit around and dwell on this. We certainly want to think about what happened, but we want to use it and we want to make it, we want to allow it to make us better somehow, and not just, sulk or feel sorry for ourselves. And I thought we did that. I thought the guys turned around and really responded well on Sunday, which was awesome to see. Like, you never want to go through a game like that, but to be able to see that we can, turn around, that we can respond from something as challenging as that was a good sign for me. So, looking at the positives, I think, being able to come out of the weekend with a split and respond like that was certainly good to see.
Out of curiosity, and this is I think an opportunity for fans and handsome sports talk radio show hosts everywhere to learn from your perspective. What does the locker room sound like when you've taken a loss? It's one that's going to be talked about for a minute. You got the game the next day. Do you kind of take the Ted Lasso approach of going there and like, hey, fellas, be a goldfish, put this in the memory? Are you immediately jumping into here's what we saw that went wrong, et cetera? As a head coach, how do you handle a locker room in a moment like that?
Yeah, I mean, post game, we did address the team, but it was very short and sweet. And again, it was just about response at that point. It was not about, here's what we did wrong. We have time in between periods to kind of go through some video and some X and O stuff. But post game, especially in a game like that, it was not at all about any of our systems or tactics or anything like that. It was just about, what kind of team do you want to be, when things don't go right, and what kind of, teammate do you want to be? And even from a staff perspective, it's like, how can we be better? How can we as a team be better and make sure it doesn't happen? I mean, it's not a good feeling in the locker room after a game like that. And to answer your question, as far as what it sounds like, I mean, it's quiet. It's, I would say introspective is kind of the word, where everybody's just kind of, taking that metaphorical look in the mirror and figuring out what they got to do. So, we addressed the group, and just told them, hey, like tomorrow, if that doesn't give you a wake up call, I don't know what does. So it was really just about moving forward. What's the response going to be? And clearly, guys took it to heart. And I think guys really took what happened Saturday personally, and guys were embarrassed. I mean, it was just one of those on home ice. You never want to have a performance like that. You never want to have a game like that. And, guys took it to heart, and I think they answered the bell on Sunday.
I do want to get your thoughts on Sunday's game, 3-2. And we kind of know what Florida is, right? Like, this is a team that wants to play bully ball. They play very physical. To me, they've always struck me as a team that is, more than anything, going to try to throw you off your game. They're going to try to talk you into making stupid penalties and giving them extra power plays and take advantage of them. And the thing that I think I was impressed about Sunday was the composure of this team, Coach, because they were taking the lumps. They were not backing down, but it never really felt like you guys allowed Florida to change the philosophy of the game. And when you're coming off of a loss like Saturday, I think a lot of teams would, right? Like, I think a lot of teams would be ready to scrap, ready to swing. And it felt to me like you guys we're going to stand up, we're going to play physical hockey, but we're not going to let the Everblades dictate the pace of the game. At least that was my perspective from an analyst guy standing outside the glass. Was that kind of the approach to Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, we certainly had to come out and set a tone early on Sunday, and you just don't want to leave it to chance in a game like that. So it was all about coming out, setting a tone, being really physical, being hard to play against. But, again, like you said, there's certainly a balance there. We don't want to come out and run around, and, it's not about gooning it up off the start. I mean, certainly if the game goes in that direction, you want to be able to answer, but that's not what we had planned on doing. It was really just about playing a really solid, physical, tough game. And I thought the guys really did that. And again, you're spot on with Florida. They're experienced, they're older, they're good at playing, kind of the game within the game, so to speak, as far as throwing teams off and just, being able to get under a team's skin. But I thought we held it together really well. I thought the guys stayed really composed, and it was good to see us capitalize on our chances when they got penalties and things like that. So, I think ultimately the guys handled themselves, and it's an emotional moment in your season as well, coming off of a loss like that. So you want to use that emotion properly. You don't want to let it get the best of you, but you do want to play with emotion. You do want to play with a passion and with just kind of that, that maturity of being able to take that moment and make the best out of it. So I thought the guys really did that. So I was really happy with, our leadership and some of the older guys that have been around to lead the charge with that and bring some of the younger guys along. And, I thought overall we said before the game we would need everybody, and we got everybody. So, I thought it was a really nice turnaround.
Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, let's take a look ahead. Big weekend for you guys this weekend, and we'll start with just the setup of the weekend. Coach, you got a Friday nighter against the cross-state rival, the Stingrays, coming to the house away from Charleston, on the road down at Savannah on Saturday, and then you spin it back around for an afternoon puck drop at the crib on Sunday. Before we get into the specifics of not just playing 3 games, but 3 games against 3 different teams in 3 different locations in the way, how do you guys handle, in whichever aspect you think is the most important to talk about, having a 3-game set with the roadie in the middle, meaning you're finishing Friday, you're getting on a bus. You're finishing Saturday, you're getting on a bus. You guys got to worry about equipment and guys getting the right amount of sleep and guys getting the right food and getting the opportunity to do the walkthroughs and the game planning and all that. For Kyle Mountain, how does this type of weekend work?
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of prep. So, it's one of those weeks where, it's a big workload. So with our staff, we've really just tried to go into this week really organized, Obviously, from a more hockey operations standpoint, just being buttoned up with all our travel plans, all the meals, like you said, everything, getting all that lined up just so we don't have to worry about it and there's no surprises. And then from the hockey standpoint, the coaching standpoint, it's a ton of prep. So it's, reviewing our past weekend, making sure we hit what we need to with the team, with our individual, video and meetings, and then with our small group or our special teams meetings, things like that. And then prepping for three different and three, very good opponents. So, a lot of time and work goes into our pre-scouts and my staff, Adam Dowda and River Pease. Those guys do a really, really good job with our pre-scouts, and they're pretty comprehensive. They're time consuming, but they're necessary for sure. So it's one of those weeks, and I won't compare it. I know I hear a lot of, when an NFL team has to go and play, a Sunday game and then turn around and play a Thursday game, and they just got to cram, basically a week's worth of work into a couple days. It's not too dissimilar as far as just being able to, get three opponents lined up, get our pre-scouts done, get all of our prep work done in just a condensed amount of time. So, there's just a lot of organization communication that goes into it, but we're chipping away at it, and we'll be ready to go for the weekend.
All right, let's talk about game number 1 Friday night at the house, taking on the South Carolina Stingrays. That team is on top of the table right now, 9-2-1, 19 points. You guys sitting 10th with 11 points. This feels like a massive opportunity. If you can take 3 points here, close that gap down to 5, that puts you somewhere up around 6th, 7th on the table. This game, on the outside looking in, Kyle Mountain, this game feels like one of those ones that, you circle some games in red before the season starts. I think anytime South Carolina comes to the house is one of those times, but specifically now it feels like it's got some big time stakes on it.
Yeah, it does for sure. They're playing really good hockey right now. So I think for us, it's a huge challenge, but a huge opportunity, like you said. So it's always a really competitive game with them. It's always physical. It's always fast. And they're playing some of their best hockey of the year right now. So I think for us, it's a really good opportunity to, put the work in this week and prepare as best as we can. But we're excited. I mean, last 2 times we've played them at their place, we've fallen short. We were able to take one from them early in the year at the Well. So I think that home ice is huge for us in a matchup like this. So we're looking forward to getting the crowd behind us and, having that fuel our performance. But it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be really competitive. Again, they're playing some great hockey right now. So we'll see how things go, but we'll have the guys ready, and I know they're excited.
And then set us up for Sunday, 3:05. You have got the Jacksonville Icemen representing the worst city in America, Jacksonville, Florida. Kyle, it's a personal issue. We can talk about it later. The Icemen coming to the crib, another team that is currently sitting right around you guys. In fact, tied with you, 11 points on the table right now. Another one of those games that, man, like, you want to start separating from the teams at the bottom. You want to make sure the teams at the top are within striking distance at any given point. So this feels, and you do have the game against Savannah wedged in the middle, but this game this weekend, concluding with Jacksonville, it kind of feels like this is a definition weekend, like an opportunity for the Swamp Rabbits to truly establish, hey, maybe we're a little further down on the table we like, but hey, we're 3 weeks into the season. Let's go define who we are. So with that opportunity in front of you, Kyle, how's this weekend shake up for you? Oh, did we lose coach? Yeah, I think we lose coach. I got to tell you, if you're going to lose Kyle Mountain, that's a hell of a face on the stream to lose him.
It is, for sure. Yeah.
All right, we'll see if we can get Coach lined back up here in just a minute. If we do, we'll finish our talk. But yeah, I mean, first off, phenomenal dude. What an easy cat to talk to. What an easy guy to talk to. And on top of that, got the opportunity to talk to him last night. Like, this dude is driven. This dude cares. This dude wants this team to be good. He's 100% the dude that, like, when he says that he's up, all right, I think we got him back. Coach, do we have
better?
Yeah, there we go. We lost you for a second. All right, got about a minute, Coach. So like I said, I think this is an incredible opportunity of a weekend for you guys to kind of define yourself, to kind of let the rest of the Southern Division know exactly who you are and where you stand. How do you get the guys ready for what does not feel like a regular 3-game weekend.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, the guys are ready. We're coming off a good win Sunday, and ultimately, any division games, like you've got to be ready to go, and they're huge points. So whether it's early in the year or late in the spring, I mean, these points matter, these matchups matter. So we're gonna have the guys ready to go. We've had a really good week so far, and we'll close it out today and tomorrow with all of our preparation. And we've got the guys ready for 3-3. I mean, we've got depth, if and when needed. And so guys are ready to step up and get a job done this weekend. But it's going to be some really good hockey. It's going to be some hard fought battles this weekend. And I know the guys are pumped for it. So it should be fun.
Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. The Bits are back at the crib this weekend on Friday night as they welcome the cross-state rival South Carolina Stingrays. They will run it back at 3:05 on Sunday when the Jacksonville Icemen come a-calling. Coach, I'm going to be honest with you, man. If you could just go beat Jacksonville like 15-0, I'd feel real good about that, bud.
There's something personal going on there, man. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
I hope you have time because it'll take them a while.
Look, I'm trying to be a professional here, Kyle Mountain, but I repeatedly refer to that city as the butthole of America, and I'm not embarrassed about it even when I am trying to be a professional.
All right. I can't wait for the story. Should be a good one.
We'll see. Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. My man, great to see you last night. Appreciate all you do for the team and the community. Good luck this weekend, big dog. We'll see you on the ice.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Any and every time. Kyle Mountain, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Well, Lonzo, when I come back, we spin the wheel of football. Take a look at the NFL teams and sort them into 4 categories. Super Bowl contenders, playoff threats, outside looking in, and bad football teams. We'll do that next on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
You see.
Coach, we got to run. Appreciate you, my man. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, guys. Always a good time. Appreciate it.
Do it again soon. Thank you, brother.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen.
If you had a song lyric that you would want Christopher Walken to say, what would it be?
Christopher Walken doing a Christopher Walken style dramatic interpretation of See, do I go with something hilarious like I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world? Or do you go with like a super main event, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Christopher Walken?
I think I would rather him be funny. I don't think he could be funny with The Wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald. A lot of people died that day, Rob. I don't know if you know that.
I do. That's why Gordon Lightfoot wrote a song about it. Nobody writes songs about shipwrecks where everybody makes it out.
Winter came early. They weren't ready. They took on too much weight.
Only 10 miles or 11 miles to go.
They almost made it.
All right, our 4 categories for the football wheel are Super Bowl contender, outside threat, meh, or bad. I'll tell you what. I'll let those of you in the chat, the fans get a voice on this as well.
Wow.
We each get 1 overrule. So if I'm going to put a team in a box that you don't like, you get 1 overrule of me.
So what, if you say something's bad and I disagree?
So if I say that I'm putting the Steelers in the Super Bowl threat category, you disagree. You can overrule and say I'm putting them over here instead.
I don't know. There's only really one dominant team in the NFL right now that you can go without a doubt that team's going to.
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and that's it. That's it. Everybody else, the top. There's obviously a top tier of teams, but out of that top tier, just about anybody could go.
I would agree. You know what? I'm gonna take a massive risk here.
Oh no!
And modify the game.
Wow.
We're gonna experiment on the fly.
It's better to change the rules before we're in the game.
I know. I should have tested this out, but I'm gonna roll with it. Instead of just saying Super Bowl threat, meh, or bad, we're gonna put them in an order within those categories. So, like, we both agree Detroit's going to be the number 1 overall team, right? So they will be top of the Super Bowl threat category. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to try a new spin on a game that Lonzo and I have been playing. Like that is spin. It's a wheel.
I golf clapped.
Yeah.
I know you couldn't hear it, but yeah.
So this is how this game works. On the old tablet of truth, I have drawn out a grid with 32 blank spaces in it, 4 columns of 8 spaces. We are going to rank the 32 teams in the NFL as they come up in a randomly generated order on the wheel, with one exception. Lonzo and I both agree that the Detroit Lions are the number 1 team in the NFL right now in terms of power ranking. But I'm gonna try something new. We're gonna play a little different. Just see if it works. Sometimes things don't work. What do you want? That's what practice is for. Instead of just putting them into the 4 categories, Lonzo, of Super Bowl threat, outside threat, meh, and bad, we're actually going to rank them within those columns, right? So if you want to go Super Bowl threat, but like number 7 in the list. Super Bowl threat, but number 2 in the list, maybe we say about Buffalo, I don't know, Kansas City, whoever. Bad, yeah, tell me who the worst team is. Number 8 in the bad category. We are going to put them in the order within those 4 columns. Here we go. Our first spin, we have already gotten the Detroit Lions eliminated because we both think they're number 1. How about this one? Great one. Would you like to go first or second before I tell you the team that was spun first?
I'll go first.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. What were the categories again?
Super Bowl threat, outside threat, meh, or bad?
Okay, as of now, I'm going to have to go with Super Bowl threat.
I think that's fair. Now, are you putting them at number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8?
I'm going to go with 5.
5. I like that a lot. They get the win over Baltimore this weekend. I think they have to go there. I am not going to push back. Lonzo and I both get one overrule. If he puts a team somewhere on this grid that I hate, I get to overrule it and move them. And same thing for him. If I put someone somewhere he hates, he gets to overrule and move them. Let's spin the old NFL wheel. The next team up, the Dallas Cowboys, a great one. I am going to say not only are they bad, but I am going to put them at number 6 in the bad category. I think I got 2 teams off the top of my head I would be willing to say are worse right now. We will find out if you agree or disagree when we get there. But I am going to move the Dallas Cowboys to the 6th position in the bad category. Here we go. Spin the wheel, round and round and round she goes. And Lonzo, we land on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Super Bowl, outside threat, meh, or bad?
They're probably going to win.
I know. I don't
South.
like this one either.
They're probably going to win the South, but maybe. I don't know. I'm going to go with meh, I guess.
1 through 8.
1.
You know what? I actually agree with that. They're too banged up. I think they can get better. They are going to win in the South, which makes them a threat. But is anybody afraid of the Bucs in the NFC South if they win that division? Which, by the way, I am not prepared to guarantee or even come close to it. All right, we spin the wheel around and around and around she goes. We come to the Arizona Cardinals. This team is very interesting to me. Great one, because on one hand, this is a football team that is 6-4. But they do have losses to the Lions, the Commanders, the Packers, and the Bills. However, they are on a 4-game win streak. I am going to say the Cardinals, though. I'm actually going to put them as a threat, but I'm going to put them in, let's say, spot number 7 on the outside threat category.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. By the way, I sent you a video of Kyler Murray eating pizza with some dude.
That. I really want to watch that. I really do. All right, we spin the wheel. Lonzo up next. We are going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Bad.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but where? 8, 7.
See, this is hard.
Now you got to start. I know. Yeah, now we got to start thinking.
It's them and the Giants.
The Giants are on this list.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 7.
7, second to worst team in the NFL.
Because I know who I think is worse.
Okay,
so
that's fair. And we got Dallas checked in at 6. Right now, we eliminate the Browns from the wheel, and we spin it one more time again. This one, my pick, and we are going to go with the Denver Broncos. This team is suddenly very, very interesting. They had not just a win, a big one. They dominated the Atlanta Falcons 38-6, but they did lose to the Ravens convincingly and the Chiefs, which nobody beats convincingly, the Kansas City Chiefs. You just kind of lose to them non-convincingly or sneak by them. Literally, if you are Josh Allen. The Denver Broncos are 6-5. They are 3rd place in the West. I'm going to put them at meh right now because they have lost 2 out of the last 3, but the one they won was dominating.
There's a good shot that the AFC West gets 3 teams in the playoff.
It is a possibility. I'm going to say good shot, possibility. Lonzo, I am going to put them at number 4 in the – I'm going to put them at number 4 in the – meh category. They are just 1 game over 500. Now, if Bo Nix comes out and throws for another 303 touchdowns coming up this week, if the Broncos come up and stack wins against the Raiders, Browns, Colts, and they go into that Chargers game in a 4-win win streak, I think we bump them up to threat, but I'm not ready to get there yet.
Would you actually give the coach a little credit then if they were?
I kind of have to, don't I?
All right.
I would kind of have to at that point, but you got to go win. You got to win 3 of the next 3 against bad teams. All right, we spin the wheel once again. This one, Lonzo, and you get, the Cincinnati Bengals. This team's tough. Joey B's out there tossing for 390 yards and 4 touchdowns and a loss.
This is the team overall.
Yes, it is. They are 4-7.
You look at the record. There's so many bad teams. We can't. We're gonna have to put some in the meh category.
Yep. You have 2 teams in the meh category, 2 in the bad, 1 in the threat, 2 in the Super Bowl column.
I'm going to go with meh.
Okay. You want to put them where on that list? Spots 1 and 4 are eaten up.
I'm gonna go with 8.
Okay, last in the meh category.
Because they're right on the edge of. I mean, they win 2 more games, and suddenly you're like, okay, they're back and they got a shot.
I don't like that, but I don't like it not enough to use my override there.
So hard.
I would have put them probably closer towards the middle of the meh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd have moved them up a little bit. That's all right. We spin it and we move on. Got time for maybe 2 more in this, and then we'll extend this. Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, to me, great one. This team is another one that is very interesting because this is an Eagles team that at the beginning of the year, like we were all ready to march on Philly and hunt down Nick Sirianni, but now the Eagles are 8-2. They're on a 5-game win streak. Granted, it ain't a 6-game win streak. It ain't all that impressive. It's the Browns, Giants, Bengals, Jags, Cowboys, and Commanders, but they were in charge of the Commanders. Lonzo, I'm going to put the Eagles. I'm going to say number 1. No, you know what? I'm going to say number 7 in the Super Bowl category. I think they've played that well in a 6-game win streak. It's not impressive. It's not blowing you away. But any NFL team that strings 6 together has got something going.
I'm going to agree with you. The other thing is the NFC is not that strong.
That's also true.
And somebody has to go in there. And they are on a 6-game winning streak. You're right.
All right, we got time for one more. Lonzo's last pick of this segment. We'll carry it over into the next. The Houston Texans. Lonzo, CJ Stroud and the gang. The Texans, of course, went to the Big D, and I do mean Dallas, and rocked the boys on a little Monday Night Football. But they lost 2 in a row. One of those to the New York Jets before that. They've also lost to the Packers and the Vikings back when the Vikings were good. Where did the Texans fall? Great one.
I'm going to put them on the outside.
Okay, putting them in the threat category?
Yeah.
And
threat.
1 through 6 or 8th?
I'm going to go with 8th.
Putting them last in the threat
category.
category.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're good, but they're not great, and they've shown signs of regression.
That's fair.
And then they'll come back and win like they did last week, so I'm not quite sure about that.
That's not unfair. All right, let's run to a break. When we come back, we will spend the rest of the hour finishing this up. I want your thoughts on this as well. Who are we putting in the wrong place? Super Bowl? Outside threat, meh, or bad? And where in those power rankings do these teams deserve to go? If you've got any feedback, any thoughts, text at 71307. Start your text with FAN or join us on the live stream. Join the chat. My man James has said that 7 is fair in the Super Bowl threat for Philly. He's a Philly fan. I agree. We'll take your thoughts when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Are you getting up?
Yeah.
Okay. We're using the restroom, guys. Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Thing is, if that's an American standing next to him, I think they still don't know who he is either. I think the height,
like a football guy would, but
I don't know, dude. I think the height really does come into play as much as we joke about it.
yeah.
And he's average height for an American.
Yeah.
But still.
Remember when that dude tried to convince us he was like 6'1"?
Yeah, it was so
like,
great.
Guy.
I think I said, yeah, maybe if we stand on a box or something. I can't remember what, but he was dead serious.
Yeah, it was.
I stood next to him.
Hilarious.
It was like, yeah.
We did. So Lonzo and I, for a while, were doing the Carolina Panther podcast for Odyssey. And we had on the cat who was doing the podcast for the Cardinals for Odyssey. And so we had this guy on, and we were talking about Kyler Murray. Now, I was Team Kyler at the time. Lonzo was very much elbow dropping Kyler Murray at every time, and he made a short joke about Kyler Murray. And the guy that was doing the pod was like, I don't know why everybody kept saying that. Kyler Murray's average height, he's 6'1". And we both, like, even I was like, bro.
Unless he's playing behind a bunch of 7'5" guys. Everybody on Arizona's team is 7'5", and Kyler 6'1". Then I think that proportionally would work. But no. That's why him walking in New York eating pizza just looks like a normal dude getting pizza.
Shedeur Sanders just accepted an invite to the East-West Shrine Bowl. Why? Why? That's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. I guess just to be different? Maybe, or does he accept it, show up, but not participate?
Maybe his dad wants to coach in the East-West.
Again, why?
So he's just going there. I don't know. Maybe he just wants to play some football, man. You know? Go out and see what everyone else who's going to be on the bench looks like. I don't know. Exactly, James. There's not much of a difference there. Not at all.
All right, Lonzo and I spinning the wheel of NFL teams and placing them into 4 categories. Super Bowl contender, outside threat, meh, or bad, and power ranking the teams within that. The problem is we don't know which order the teams are coming up in. So we spin the wheel, Lonzo. I believe that I am up next. We both still have our override. The next team up are the Miami Dolphins. This team got themselves a win. They were able to put some points up on the board, but it's also a team that's 4-6. I'm going to say this, great one. I actually am going to put this team, knowing full well you have your override and you just shook your head vigorously. I'm going to put
I
this
shook my
team,
head because what a hard choice this is going to be.
Yeah, this one's interesting. And you may disagree with me on this. I'm going to put them right ahead of Arizona in the threat category. I'm not dead. I don't think this team's dead by any stretch of the imagination. And while they do not have a path to win the division up against a 9-win Buffalo team, I do think this team has found a little bit of momentum. And listen to the schedule coming up. They've got the Patriots, the Packers on the road, the Jets, the Texans on the road. I actually think they match up well with the Texans. I think they match up well with the Packers, unlike the Bears. They will destroy the Jets, who just fired their general manager. They will destroy the Patriots this weekend. This team's going to be 8-6 4 weeks from now, and that is around where you need to be that last wild card spot. I think I'm going to put them in the threat category right ahead of Arizona.
Yeah,
I think you put Houston too low now that I look at it.
Yeah, I completely disagree with you on this. I do.
Are you using the override? You have it.
Okay, so if I use it, what happens?
You move them anywhere else on the board you want to.
Okay, I'm using my override.
Okay, where are the Miami Dolphins going for you?
They are going in meh.
Okay. In the meh category, we have spots 2 and 3, and then 5, 6, and 7.
7.
Putting Miami 7th.
This all comes down to the health of the quarterback. We've seen what happens when he's not there and he's out there making tackles with his head. He is not making it through the end of the season. I hope he does, but
so do I. We'll find out. All right, we're putting Miami 7th in the MAC category. Lonzo has utilized his override. He has no moss. Let's spin the wheel. Great one. You are up with the New York Football Giants.
Last. I don't care if I didn't have my mic on. Last. Bad. Last.
I mean, we'll check back in after Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, it's not going to be any different.
Tommy DeVito!
Still bad.
Who, by the way, was third on the QB depth chart behind Drew Lock, who they're paying $5.5 million to be the backup. Tommy DeVito is making like $75 a game to be their third string quarterback, and they went straight to him. Do you know why? This team's trying to lose now. This is a tank job in process.
Or they're trying to prove how bad Daniel Jones was. They're jumping to the third string and showing that the third string can win with this team.
We'll find out. I think it's a tank job, which is why I am not going to use my exception for you putting the Giants dead last on the table. We spin it again. I am up, and my team is the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, let's go ahead and drop them. I don't know that they are better than Dallas, one spot ranked ahead, because that's the lowest remaining slot on the table, but they're not very good.
If they went head-to-head, who would you pick?
Probably Dallas, to be honest with you.
Not
by much. Not by much. All right, we spin it again. Lonzo now up. We had filled out the entire bottom four of the bad slot, the Baltimore Ravens, Lonzo.
Why would I get this team? I can't stand this team. They're contenders. I mean, yeah, they're of course.
Spot 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8.
You're going to override me. I'm going to go 6. Because head-to-head with the better teams, how well do they do? They lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to Kansas City. What do they do in the playoffs? They lose.
See, I'm trying to think of who we haven't picked. I know Kansas City's got to go in there. I know Buffalo's got to get in there. We've got to. You put them behind Pitt, but they just lost to Pitt. There's a spot for one more team? We already have Detroit on there. I think I know who I might slot in there, and you might fight me on that one too. But we'll see.
Well, I don't have an override anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Correct. Let's spin the wheel. Next up for me, the Carolina Panthers. Zoe, fight me on this. I'm going to put them as the second to the top team in the bad category. I think there's a few teams left that I'm willing to say right now we're playing worse football than the Panthers are, who have won 2 in a row going into the bye.
Okay, right now. I would love to.
Right now, this is.
I would love to be doing this next week to find out what they do against Kansas City.
That is also true. Yeah. That is also. Is that a measuring stick? If they go out there and they lose by 4 to Kansas City, do we go, they've stepped up, or we go, that's the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's the Chiefs. Yeah,
that's fair.
You're right.
All right, Carolina eliminated from the wheel, second to the top in the bad category. Lonzo, your next team up is the New York Football Jets. I'm so glad you got this one. I really am.
What slots are left in the bad?
1, 3, or 4.
Well, I guess we're going with 4 then.
I think you have to go with 4. And honestly, I think the Pooch have been screwed because this team does not deserve to be there. I would put this team behind Tennessee. I'd probably put this team behind Dallas, to be honest with you.
All right, so I think it's a toss-up if they played either one of those teams.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's spin the wheel. My next team up, the Washington Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. Hold with me. Team had an impressive win run, 7-2 out of the gate, but of those 7, 6 were against bad teams. They go up against Philly. They get smacked around a little bit. Jaden Daniels is now in his rookie year. He is now known. There is now tape. He is going to catch back up. Lonzo, I am going to put the Commanders in the number 5 spot in the outside threat category.
Wow, I'm surprised you didn't put them up higher. Because as far as the NFC goes, they're still, they're right up there.
They are. You know what? I am. I haven't taken my finger off the chess piece yet. I'm going to put them number 2 in the threat category. I'm going to put them number 2 in the threat category.
It might be a little high, but still, I think they're a threat.
That's fair. All right. The Las Vegas Raiders, Lonzo, you've got number 1 and 3 in the bad category. You've got 2, 3, 5, and 6 in the MAC category.
Why do I get all the bad stuff?
I don't know.
I'm going to go 3 in the bad, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's
all right. So this
stinks.
It should be lower, but
team stinks. I know. We feel the bad category got filled up real quick. All right, my pick. We're spinning of the wheel, and we end up with the Chicago number one of the bad category. Bad categories filled, kids. That's it. Every team left has to go into meh or better.
Or better. Okay.
Actually, looking at the wheel, there's only one. There's two teams that I think we could have done better with, but we'll find out. All right, spinning the wheel. Lonzo up next. Does he catch one of those two teams? He does not. Lonzo, your Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, what is what's left
in the Super Bowl category? You have spots 2, 3, 4, and 8.
Okay, I know they just lost to Buffalo, and it's going to bother some people. Maybe you override with me, but that's fine. I'm going to.
I do override. I can't do it. I'm putting him at number 4. You've won everything but one.
They lost one.
You've
game.
impressed in none of them.
Okay,
but are you impressed by the wins? Because these other teams like Detroit, I'm impressed by Detroit.
Were you impressed by any win last year?
For you? No. But this isn't a team's most likely to win the Super Bowl. It's right now.
Right,
what do they look
What
like?
I'm saying is you would never be impressed because of the style of play they play.
That's fair.
So
that's fair. I'm not saying they're not a favorite, but they are. All right, Indianapolis Colts, great one. I am going to put the Colts. I'm actually going to put the Colts because they looked a lot better this week. It was a close win. Anthony Richardson looked like he grew up. I am going to put the Colts right ahead of Arizona in the threat category.
Really?
Nah, yeah.
Come on, dude. That's got to be mad.
I think you've got a run game you can lean on, and I think they have to figure that out. All right, fine. I'll move them to the mad category. You talked me out of it. I think that might be my bias.
See, the advantage is you can see the wheel, and I have to go through my mind and try to figure out who's left.
We'll do this. I'm going to figure out a way to do this on screen next week. I think we can do it on screen next week.
Oh, that'd be better.
Yeah, I think we can do it on screen next week. Let's put Indy. You know what? Let's put Indy right behind Denver in the Met category. What do you think about that? Let's put them 5th.
That works.
All right, let's put them 5th. All right, we got to sprint through some of the rest of these. We do have the Lions still on the board, though they are already consensus number 1. Lonzo, the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh.
You've got Matt 2, 3, and 6, and then you've got a bunch of spots open at threat, and you have 2, 3, and 8 left for Super Bowl.
Wow, they were so promising at the beginning. Now I'm not. I'm going to go Matt 2.
Man number 2. You
can't change it. So
God, they're 8 and 2.
Yeah, I'm still going Matt 2.
I should have saved my override. This is absolutely an override.
I'm still going Matt 2.
This is way too low.
I do not believe in Minnesota.
Way too low for an 8 and 2 team, man. Their losses. One of them is to the Lions.
We need to rush through. Remember?
I really want to fight about this one. All right, we eliminate them. We roll on with the wheel.
My team to 4.
Yeah, I should have left them. Detroit, we've already got Detroit on the list at number 1 overall. We eliminate them. We spin it again. Little less time for justification of picks. Seattle Seahawks, I am going to put at, I'll tell you what, after this win over San Francisco this weekend, let's put them number 4 in the threat category. I'm suddenly find myself as a believer in Geno in the clutch. Lonzo, the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, man, this stinks.
You have 3 and 6 in May. You have 1, 3, 5, and 6 in threat.
I'm going to go 3 May.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to argue after what they did, or should I say did not do this weekend against the Broncos.
I do like you not having to say the word Kirko ever again.
Buffalo Bills going number 2 in the Super Bowl category.
Oh, look at you. You're all happy.
I was waiting for Josh Allen. Running out of teams here. Just a few left to select from. Great one. You get the L.A. Rams. Yeah. You got 1 mess spot open left. You got 4 threats that are 1, 3.
So everything after, if I go man, everything is a contender. What's the last thing in contender?
Contender right now is number 6.
I'm going to go contender 6.
I don't hate it. Puka Nacua is still a dog. Cooper Kupp is still a dog. You got to save that mass spot because there's one team that does not deserve it, which means that with my pick, the New England Patriots. Oh, God, we have screwed up. We have screwed up tremendously. God, New England's going to end up in the threat category ahead of the Rams, Arizona, and Houston.
I thought there was one left in May. You're not going to put them in there? There is,
but there's one more team on there that's an even bigger disaster than the Patriots. And if you don't know who they are off the top of your head, that means you're going to land on them on this spin, but you don't. The LA Chargers.
Definitely a contender. What numbers are left?
3 and 8.
Oh, this pains me. 3.
3 for the
Have
damn Chargers.
Have you seen them playing lately?
I think you're a little high, but we do have 4 teams left to go, and we are just about out of time. The Green Bay Packers, threat, and I will put. You know what? I'm going to put them at threat 3 because there's one team left. I think goes above them.
3 for the Chargers.
You did in Super Bowl. Sorry, outside threat.
Okay, all right.
The New Orleans Saints, Alonzo. You can have them you can have them top of the threat or bottom of the Super Bowl list.
I'm going to go meh.
I know you are. You know what that hilariously means? That hilariously means with 2 teams left to play, one of us has to be the jerk that says, and of course it's me, I'm ending the game because I'm not writing Jacksonville down anywhere that we have left. I'm not doing it. This is a tough game because of this reason
What
right
2
here.
teams were left?
Jacksonville and San Francisco.
Okay. Well, San Francisco obviously better, so they would have to go better than Jacksonville.
Which puts the Jags at the top of threat level midnight. All right, you see why this game sucks sometimes?
Wow.
It's fun in that you get to justify picks, but then you end up with the Jags as a top. This is why I was leaving that mass spot that you put New Orleans in, because right now, who's a bigger threat, New Orleans or Jacksonville?
Darren
Rizzi and his 2-0 Saints.
New Orleans, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
so
they can still win the South, yeah.
Yeah, and this is why we need to do it on the screen, because if I would have pointed out that Jacksonville's still on the wheel, you would have had to move New Orleans to the threat column, without a doubt. They're not, but you'd have had to. All right, there you go. There's our game. I'd ask what we got wrong, but the answer is most of the chart.
It's not most of it. This is the last couple.
Now,
sure.
Power ranked number 1 in the Sports Flash is the great one, Lonzo.
Speaking of rankings, the college football playoff rankings dropped last night. Oregon maintains their hold on number 1, followed by Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and undefeated Indiana in the top 5. Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, and Georgia finish out the top 10. Boise State at number 12 would receive a bye in the rankings holds, if the rankings holds in the playoff. Colorado checks in at number 16, 1 spot ahead of 17 Clemson, who is just 1 spot above the mighty South Carolina Gamecocks at 18. New York Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas after a 3-8 start to the season. The move comes 6 weeks after the team fired former head coach Robert Saleh. The Jets were 30-64 under Morgan's leadership with no winning seasons and no playoff appearances, second worst winning percentage in that stretch of the NFL. So then tonight, 6:30, as the Furman Paladins take on the Oglethorpe Stormy Petrels. It's Furman versus Oglethorpe right here on the Fan, upstate. I'm not going to apologize to any Oglethorpe people because it's a weird name. It just is. Especially the Stormy Petrels. Game is hard, man. It's hard. It's difficult. Rob looked it up earlier. It's in Georgia, actually. And I had to look up what a stormy petrel is, and it's a bird that flies over the ocean and gets its food that way. It looks like a Seahawk to a degree. It's not every day where you learn something new. It should be. We'll all forget about the stormy petrel after today, probably. But, for now. You're asking for too much information there. That requires research and stuff. I forget. I'll look in a second though. They're D3. Okay. So good on a D3 team getting to play, a bigger team in Furman. Never thought that I would end the day with Oglethorpe in my search history multiple times.
Mayo game day. And away we go, the fourth, the final, the money hour. The Rob Brown Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Great to have you. Rob Brown, the great one, Alonzo, with you today. Be a part of the radio broadcast. Multiple ways to do just that today. The first is the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, which you can get in touch with us at 844-FANFONE, 844-326-3663. You can text us on the text line, 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can tweet me at the Rob Brown Show. You can tweet the great one at Lonzo on Word. You can tweet all of us at the Fan Upstate. If you want to get at us in that direction, you're certainly welcome to do so. And, of course, on top of all of that, you can use the Ray Memorial Hotline. The Ray Memorial Hotline, very, very simple. You go to the Odyssey app, Audacy. Put it on all of your digital devices. And once that does, what you will find is that on that page, right in the middle, there's two buttons. One's big and orange. It says, listen live. You click that button, you can listen to the Fan Upstate live from anywhere in the world with an internet connection and a speaker. And you can do so 24/7, 365. The other thing you can do 24/7, 365 is click that little circle microphone button right next to it. You do that, you can record an up to 60-second voice note. And my favorite thing about it, you can do that 24/7, 365. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Does not matter the time of day, the day of week, the week of month, the month of year. You go to the Odyssey app, you go to the Fan Upstate page, you click the heart icon, you go to the website, or you go to the Odyssey page, you click the play button, you listen to us live, and you click that microphone button, drop an up to 60-second voice message that comes directly to the great one and I, and you can do it 24/7, 365, any state of mind you might find. Maybe you watched a little Thursday Night Football, and you're going, this sucks. Why are they doing this to me? Drop us a voice note. Let us know about it. Maybe you're watching football this Saturday and, I don't know, Carolina comes off the bye, play a little sluggish, a little slow. You're going, golly, I'm now concerned about the Palmetto Bowl, and I need Rob Brown to know about it. Go to the Odyssey app and drop that voice note. I want you guys to consider that a way, an opportunity to get in touch with the radio broadcast anytime that you want to. Make it a part of your daily activities, all right? The Ray Memorial Hotline available to you only on the Odyssey app. All right, we got a bunch of stuff we need to get into on the radio broadcast final hour as we roll through the midweek edition of the show. So let us dial in, shall we? I do have, we had Kyle Mountain, the head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. That interview will be posted after the show. We had Denton Day from SiriusXM's college football overtime program. Joins us every Wednesday at 7:40. We talk some college football with him. We can get back to that if you would like to do so. But there's a couple of other things that I want to get to on the program. We have not gotten the opportunity to talk about this. And this is a story that is more from last week, but it is something that I wanted to address because I think there's a mild misunderstanding going on. And the sad thing about it is a mild misunderstanding for a franchise that has already got its own fair share of problems that I don't think this one needs to have. Cam Newton said on his podcast late last week, that he feels as if he is being erased from the history of the Carolina Panthers.
Can I be vulnerable real quick?
Yeah.
All right. People don't know this story, but I'm going to tell it. I don't have no quarrel with David Tepper. I don't have no quarrel with nobody in the Panthers organization. I speak my mind unbiasedly, no matter who and what franchise it is. Last year, we had a 7-on-7 tournament in Charlotte.
Correct.
We went into the Panthers facility. And you mean to tell me one of the greatest Panthers to ever play ain't up nowhere? I'm talking nowhere. Who brought it to my attention? My son. How old is my son, baby?
8. Yeah, 8 now.
He 8. So as a man, when you have to explain to your son, Daddy, where's your picture?
Yeah.
At this particular point in time, the question was, we don't know if Cam's retired yet. Newsflash, I'm never going to retire. I know I've played my last piece of football. It don't matter to me to officially retire. A couple years ago, I had initiatives that I brought to the forefront to the Carolina Panthers. I said, I'm really taking this media serious. Why don't we give a live audience the experience to let's do a Funky Friday for the masses. We're approaching, at this time, it was 5 years since the 2015 season. I was like, we could do a 2-for-1. I can talk to Luke Kuechly. I can talk to Thomas Davis. I can talk to Greg Olsen, unfiltered, in a way in front of an audience that we can just share stories. This could be the perfect way to pass the torch to Bryce Young. I think the fans are like that. Did that get pushed through, Peggy?
No. I think the narrative was, Cam, you need to come into the stadium and mend relationships that you didn't even know that anything was broken.
Yeah. So when I see certain things happen like this, I didn't even know certain opportunities even existed. So did it hurt my feelings? Yeah, it did. I'm like, damn, bro, I gave this city everything.
So I want you to know I heard that.
I got, before you get into this, was there like a live piano player?
No, that was actually from Cam Newton's podcast.
Because I'm just picturing someone in the corner just playing the whole time he's talking, and that would have made it more heartfelt.
For the record, I've told you guys, life objective for me is get to the point where I have entrance music, but it's played live, right? Like I want to have somebody, I want to be introduced into a room full of people, but I actually have like a DJ walking around with a scratch board actually playing my intro. It's just a life goal. It's a dumb one. I acknowledge it's stupid, but I want it. No, that was from Cam Newton's podcast social page. He and his producer, Peggy, we're talking about this. And I want you to know that I understand and not just understand, but sympathize with Cam Newton. I sympathize with Cam having poured what he said was, and I quote, everything into that city and showing up to the stadium, to the facility, and not being recognized in his opinion. But
I don't know what it's like. I understand that he should actually be up there, but our picture is right over there on the building.
Well, so, obviously,
I mean, you know.
But I will tell you that a number of years ago, when I worked for an old radio station, and I've told this story, so I won't go into the nuts and bolts of the story, but the 30-second version of it is that I worked for a station back in Florida. I was at one point, because the old radio show host went to jail for defrauding people out of like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like felony jail, like big jail, like real jail. He went to jail. This station effectively came to me and was like, we can't survive if you don't take over. So I did. So for about 2.5 years, I hosted and produced both the morning and afternoon drive shows. I was on 8 hours a day live as both the producer and the host of this network, of this station, and I kept it alive. And when that guy got out of jail the first time, you know what they did to me? Demoted right back to producer. You don't talk, he talks. That was it. Then he went to jail again. And I got told, hey, we need you. Can't do it. Point here is that station not only does not recognize me in any way, they actively avoid me being in that market. They actively avoid me being involved with activities. They actually have told groups down there, we don't want this guy around, because I badmouthed him when I left. Why did I badmouth him? Well, everything I just told you in that story. So I sympathize with Cam, but
this is Tepper. It's got to be, right?
No.
You don't think it's Tepper?
I can tell you what it is. What it is Cam Newton will not officially sign the paperwork with the NFL that says I'm retired. And so because he is not signing the paperwork, he is an active free agent right now. The Carolina Panthers cannot tamper with Cam Newton. And putting his picture up on the side of the stadium wall would be considered tampering. And if they tamper with a free agent, which Cam Newton by definition is, as he is not officially retired, that could be fines of hundreds of thousands of dollars. More importantly, that could be lost draft picks, right? So as much as they may very well, I don't know if they do or don't, but they may very well want to stick Cam's picture up on the side of Bank of America Stadium. They may very well want to build a little tribute podium to Cam Newton in the facility. But if they do that, that will be considered tampering in the eyes of the National Football League. And the Carolina Panthers could lose not just the money, but could lose draft picks over. And as much as I think Carolina should and frankly will celebrate Cam, if he's not willing to, for whatever, and listen, I'm good with my man having a principle, standing on business, 10 toes down. I'm good with all of that. But if Cam, for whatever reason, will not sign the paperwork that says I am retired, even if he goes on the pod and he says, I'm done, here's all that needs to happen. He says on the pod, I'm done. I'm not coming back. I'm done. I'm out. I'm not playing. I'm never playing another down. I'm good. I'm done. And Carolina slaps a Cam Newton tribute up on the side of BOA, or they slap a trophy case for Cam Newton in the locker room. And then Cam comes on the pod the next day and he goes, hey, you know what? My kid told me last night he wants to go to another game, and I decided so do I. I'm playing again. Bang, Carolina's out draft picks. This is very simple. If Cam Newton signs the paperwork that says I am retired officially, Carolina I will then be ready to bust up David Tepper and the Panthers if they don't put a Cam Newton sticker up on the side of BOA. I will 100% come to your side. But if you're not retired, Cam, as much as you do mean a lot to the Carolina Panthers, you nor any other player, putting your picture up on the stadium is not worth losing draft picks at a point in time where we all know that draft picks are gold right now to the Panthers.
See, I would say, and I get everything you're saying, but if you ask anyone around the country, hey, name the most famous players from the Carolina Panthers, who are the names that pop up? He's got to be on that list.
He is the top of the list. I'm not disagreeing with that. Of course that's correct. He's the top of the list. But all that matters is, are you giving up a 4th, 3rd, 2nd round draft pick to put a sticker of Cam Newton on the building Because you know the people who come to Panther games, what are they, Lonzo? They're Panther fans.
Well,
right?
They're the only ones that come. Well, no.
That's not true.
No, they're teams from it's probably going to be quite a bit of red there. If I'm going to the game this weekend, it's because I got a press pass, not because I bought a ticket. They're like $200 to sit up top. All right. They're Panther fans. They don't need a sticker of Cam Newton. You go down there to that stadium, you're seeing one jerseys everywhere. Okay. They don't need the reminder. If they're going to pay homage to Cameron Newton, it's real simple. Retire, my guy. Okay, just sign the paperwork. I don't know. And I'm not going to judge him for not doing it. There may be a very good fundamental or philosophical reason that came. I try my best, with the exception of furries, I try my best to understand that I may not understand the decision-making process and the life experiences that led a man or woman to make the decision that they've made. I have told you all before. In this regard of my life, I'm very traditionally conservative. You live your life how you want to live your life. It is not up to me to put into place guidelines, rules, or laws that dictate to you how you can live your life. If you ain't hurting or bothering nobody else, you do whatever you want to do. Even if you want to dress up like a full-size anthropomorphic dog, and do it that style with other people who like to dress up as full-size anthropomorphic dogs. I think you're weird, and I'm going to tell you, but it's not up to me to dictate how you live your life. So I don't know what Cam Newton's reasoning for not signing the paperwork that says I'm officially retired is, but you can't get mad at the Panthers for not paying homage to you when it is against the rules. And it is fixable by you quite literally signing a piece of paper, right? Go down, call Raj, have him fax over the retirement paper, sign it, fax it on back to Raj. And when Raj files it with the league for you, bang, I will be the first person to jump up on this network and in Charlotte and go, yo, put my man up on the stadium. Put his face up there with Luke Kuechly and Steve Smith. Put him in the Ring of Honor. Do all these things because he was, whether or not you think he actually succeeded, he absolutely was one of, if not the, as Lonzo just pointed out, I think accurately, most notorious, noteworthy, there's a word I'm looking at. I'm good at this. Noteworthy faces in the history of this franchise. But Cam, if you're not willing to retire, and the rule says they can't pay homage to you until you retire, you can't be mad at them not paying. They're not trying to erase you, my dog. Retire. You retire, and I guarantee and if the Panthers don't, I will absolutely get after them. But you can't be mad at the Panthers for not being willing to give up draft picks at one of the most important turning points in the history of the franchise because you've got some philosophical stand against retiring. I love Cam. I hope to see him on the side of BOA one day. But if you're not willing to retire, don't be shocked that they're not willing to do things for players who have retired. 71307 got a bunch of texts that came in on the text line. We'll address those when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Is that a surprised gasp?
It's inconsistent. Why that thing goes into manual for that weather. And it doesn't happen every day. You need to keep track and see if it only happens on Wednesdays. I don't know.
All right, guys, give me 45 seconds. I will be right back. Find my mouse. There it is. Be right back. Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Text line 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. Got a couple of texts that I wanted to get back to as we roll ever closer towards the end of the radio broadcast. If you got any thoughts you want to give today, 71307 again is the text line to get them in here. Texter said, Rob, thoughts on how and why Missouri is still ranked? It's a great question. Start with this. They are 7-3. Let's start with this. Their losses. Texas A&M, top 15 team. Alabama, top 10 team. South Carolina, top 20 team. Their 3 losses, if you believe in good losses, their 3 losses are about as good of 3 losses as anybody in the country. I also look and I go, all right, who else are you putting ahead of them? Right? Mizzou's number 23. Behind them, you have UNLV, the Rebs, who have a loss to Syracuse and a loss to Boise State. But they don't really have any big wins. They beat Houston. They beat Kansas, who knocked off BYU last weekend. Oregon State, San Diego State. Like I can't put Mizzou. And listen, I am, for those of you who have followed the show for any length of time, you know this. I'm as much a believer that there is an SEC bias as anybody else, but I will also say that to some degree there is some level of justification in the bias. This is one of those conversations that I tell you all the time. I think keeping things in perspective by discussing the nuances around them are important. I think there are a lot of years where Southeastern Conference teams get credit for beating other Southeastern Conference teams. Well, because they're all ranked so high. But they're all ranked high because they're all ranked high, right? They are all ranked high for the same reason Kim Kardashian is famous. Why is she famous? Because she's famous. There's no justification for it. There's no talent. There's no skill. She's just famous because she's famous. She's famous for being famous. No one can explain it. She just is. Now, that being said, I also do think it is important to point out that when the SEC steps out of conference as of late, the SEC wins. Okay? And I do think, even if you believe, as I do, that there is an inherent SEC bias that prevents other teams from getting a fair crack at times. Florida State last year with Alabama stepping into their spot in the college football playoff. While I do believe there is an SEC bias that does prevent other teams from getting a fair crack sometimes, I also have to acknowledge that it's the deepest conference in football this year, right? Lonzo, you're a Big Ten guy. Will you push back that the SEC is the deepest conference in football this year? It ain't yours, respectfully. It ain't mine, no respectfully, right? Like, what's the deepest conference? What conference do you even put into the conversation?
Yeah, it's the SEC.
Yeah, right? So on the flip side of, yeah, they've got 3 losses. I'm looking around the rest of the teams at the bottom of the top 25. Am I putting them under a 7-3 Illinois ILL Illini team who has losses to number 9 Penn State, number 1 Oregon, and Minnesota? Are the 3 losses for Illinois lesser than the 3 losses for Mizzou? I can't say no, right? Like, at the end of the day, I just think there has to be some realization.
If you hadn't put in Minnesota in there, those are.
I mean, yeah. 2 of the 3 losses ain't bad, but I would make the argument that, Mizzou combined 3 losses, probably a better, if this is such a thing to you, and I think it has to be. Welcome to college football. Even if you don't like it, this is a thing. Mizzou's 3 losses are a better 3 losses, 1, 2, 3. So I can't put them behind Illinois. You left Kansas State, Washington State, Louisville, and LSU out. Are any of those teams, or are you willing to say they're more impressive? So the answer is sometimes teams that don't look all that great. And I told you coming into this year, I thought the Missouri Tigers were the most overrated team inside the top 15. And again, even though I do feel like I am correct and have been justified, I also have to point out They do have 3 losses, but all 3 of the top 20 teams. Turns out that South Carolina loss, pretty good loss for Mizzou. So that would be the thing. Texas said, Rob, what was the name of the band you played yesterday? The Bluegrass Mr. Brightside. That band, apparently, according to social media, was a band called Daddy Bones, was the name of the band. I did not go check to see if they are on Spotify or anything, but that was the name of the social media handle that video was posted under. So I believe that to be correct. Texas said, buys are good to get you healthy if you're not, but a lot of teams have struggled this year coming off the bye. South Carolina got beat down by Ole Miss off of a bye. I don't disagree with you, and this is why this conversation that we had earlier in the show, to me, is very interesting, because I don't disagree with you. South Carolina got beat off the bye. Clemson got beat off the bye. Remember, they come off the bye for that full game. So I think that there's a lot of teams that have struggled off the bye. There's also a lot of teams that have not struggled off the bye, right? And again, I think if you ask most coaches, at least in my experience, if you ask most coaches, I do think that most coaches would be most comfortable coming off the bye, going into the playoffs, right? I think, I could be wrong, but I think most coaches would take the extra week, even if you don't know who the opponent is coming off the bye or going into what would be your bye week. And this was the problem. Remember, go back. I beat up on Shane Beamer for coming off the bye and looking like booty cheeks when he did it. Part of the reason why was what? You knew who your opponent was coming off the bye. You had an extra week of ability to scout Ole Miss. I busted up Dabo coming off the bye. Again, why? Because you knew who your opponent was. You had extra time. Coming into the college football playoffs, teams that are on the bye will know who their opponents are for the same length of time as the opponents will. And you do have a leg up in that coming off the bye. It can only be 1 or 2 teams, right? This ain't a situation where we reseed the tournament after each round. So you know who your 2 opponents are. You can, if nothing else, get some extra tape together on the 2 teams that you could end up squaring up against and put half the prep into one and half the prep to the other. And I would also go so far as to say, if you're coming off the bye and you are team number, 4, like you're pretty sure you know who you're getting in the next round, right? Like you're pretty sure you know you're getting the 5 seed. I think it is going to be more rare in the college football 12-team playoff tournament that a 12 seed moves on than it is a 12-team moving on in the March Madness tournament. So for team 4 and maybe even 3, I would make the argument I'd still want the bye, because even though I may not know which of the 2 teams I'm going to get the next week, I kind of do. Right? So I get what you're saying, Texter, and you're not wrong. But the bye regarding the playoffs, I'd take it. I'd take the bye. I'd take the bye from the standpoint of I want my team as healthy and rested as possible going into that second round game with everything on the line than I would to play for a conference championship game. Texter said, it is sad for college football that a grifter is trying to convince folks that being a conference champion contender is overrated. This is one of those spots, Texter. This is one of those spots where I have to try to point out that what you are passionate about isn't always what logically makes this the most sense, right? Like what you are passionate about isn't always the most logical thing. For instance, I am passionate about playing guitar. Right? It's one of my things. I got an acoustic guitar that hangs by the back door at the Casa de Love so that in the evenings I can do what is over the last couple of months become my new favorite evening time activity. I go out back, I built myself a fire pit in the backyard. I go out back, I light a fire, I bring the Alvarez acoustic outside, and I just play comfort songs. I just play songs that I learned how to play that I love. Take It Easy by the Eagles, a song that my dad said, I'll buy you a guitar, but you got to learn how to play this song within the first 6 months. That was his way to motivate me to learn the guitar. It's my favorite thing to do. Would I be better served going outside and playing guitar? Or would I be better served, Texter, by staying inside and doing more show prep? Would I be better served by going outside and playing guitar for no one? Or would I be better served going inside and figuring out how to become a viral TikTok sensation? Would I be better served being out in my backyard, sitting by the fire, playing guitar and drinking bourbon? Or would I be better served staying inside in front of the big TV and watching game film? Which one of those do I do more frequently? I do a lot of game film, do a lot of show prep, try to make sure the show's as good as I can for you guys. Try to make sure that when I come in here and I say, I know ball, Lonzo doesn't say,
let me tell you, you don't know ball.
Are you sure they weren't talking about the coach? And
they're talking about
you?
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making here is, even though there is a lot of pride in the fans in winning the Southeastern Conference Championship, even though fans, as we said to Denton Day, as I said last night to Ryan Horvat and Brad Evans on BetMGM tonight, even though, and I've said this a lot of time, college football fans, especially SEC fans, because Lonzo, as we all know about the SEC,
it just means more.
It just means more. There is a lot of pride in winning the Southeastern Conference Championship and opening up next season by unveiling that big 2024 SEC regular season or conference championship poster. But as I did yesterday on the show, I've used this example before in other sports, and I'll use it here. If I was to tell you that I am a magical football genie, and I can grant you one of two scenarios, and you get to pick. Scenario A, I'm going to guarantee you, Texter, guarantee you a Southeastern Conference Championship. Guarantee you. You go play it, guarantee you that you win. But you don't go to the college football playoffs, which we know that's not how it works, but for this scenario, guarantee you a conference championship win, but you don't go to the playoffs. Or you don't win the conference championship, but I guarantee you a spot as one of the 12. I don't guarantee you a win, but I guarantee you a spot as one of the 12. Which one of those two things are you taking? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm taking the appearance in the college football playoffs, because that's how I win a natty, which is more important, right? You guys are passionate about it. Logically speaking, it makes more sense not to win the conference championship and be one of the 12. All right, let's take a break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
So are we sad to say goodbye to Chase U? Knew that was coming, but
We hardly knew ye, Chase U. We hardly knew ye.
I don't know. Duke Cousin may be in trouble. I think the only one who survives is Thea. What is everybody else going to do? They're big, they're fat, and they're definitely out there. Not the biggest head on the building, though. Literally and figuratively.
Who's got the biggest head on the building?
I'm going to go with Bill Frady's.
Freddie does have a noggin.
Because it's closer to, and he's got his headphones on. So
Freddie does have a noggin. You're not wrong.
I haven't looked at Fat Boy's picture. I know it's on the side, on the other side. It's raining, though. I'm not going out there. But, you know. Diesel's beard on the side of the building is very distracting because it's like staring at art, like perfection, and the fact that you're seeing it in picture form now, it's hard to not stare up there on my way to work and leaving work.
The theme song for Kurt and Head. I found a bet on Instagram that all they do is they make wrestling walkout songs mariachi style.
We're going to get flagged for that.
I love it so much.
This is a little.
Joey B just sent that to me.
This is a little oomph, you know?
I love it.
It's a little too laid back for that song.
Good find, Joey B. Good find. Joey B asked the question, and I think it is very fair. What are Mizzou's best wins, right? We talked about the losses. And I think I need to point out here that when we have these conversations, at least to me, these conversations that we have about the rankings and people asking, why is Mizzou there? Or why did Bama jump Miami? I don't think that what is being asked is why did this specific instant take place? I think what is being asked really is, can we get a more definite breakdown of what is happening here? Can we get a more definite breakdown of why this is the way that it is? And the reason I think that is the case is because we want to know. And I think we want to know because as we get towards the end of the college football season and more of these teams start coming into play as far as who could find themselves in a college football playoff spot, in a spot where they're fighting for the bye, I think to some degree, all of us just really want to know, like, what is the process by which this whole thing is decided so that we can look for consistencies, we can call out where we think we got it wrong. Because if the selection committee, and I said this yesterday on the show, if they are not going to tell us, show us, Denton Day made the point earlier, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. You want to talk about, and I'll go ahead and direct this right to you, ESPN. I know you're listening. I know you're keeping track. Lonzo, you want the highest rated sports television show that's not the Super Bowl? Stick a camera in that room. Stick a couple of mics in that room. Just put a camera up in the corner of that room that points out back towards the selection committee. Stick a microphone in front of every one of these committee members. And as they discuss and debate, let us listen. Let us listen. Because if we can get the reality here is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee makes these decisions subjectively. They make these decisions based on their opinion. I think that Missouri, despite results, or maybe in some cases because of results, I think that Missouri deserves to be ahead of Iowa State, UNLV, Illinois. I think they deserve that. And as I pointed out to Denton, and I do stand on this, I think we have, in just about every element of American culture, we have gotten to this point where we allow people to hold beliefs and opinions and we don't challenge them. I'm not saying that you have to go, hey, you jackass, you're wrong and here's why. I'm saying when someone says, I believe X, I think we should say, cool, why? Because if you don't have a good, solid foundation to believe X, that's when I no longer respect your opinion. If you have the opinion that aliens exist, that's cool. I would like your opinion why. But when you tell me, oh, because last week Congress held an investigation or an open hearing, and some folks got up there and they told Congress, we found bodies there in the ocean. We have biologic material. Well, then I'm going to respond, yes. Do you remember who the presenting witness in that hearing was? It's a guy who sells alien conspiracy books for a living. I'm not shocked that a guy who sells alien conspiracy books for a living got in front of Congress and said, hey, aliens are real. Buy my book and read all about it. Of course he did.
So you're saying that if aliens were real, he would not be trying to sell books about aliens being real?
I'm saying if he has evidence that aliens are real, give me that evidence. Not, I write books, buy my books, and then you'll believe me. No. If you have evidence, bring the evidence. But if you tell me, guy who writes alien books for a living, that you know that there are aliens, shockingly, I'm not going to surprise you. It would kind of be like if Jerry Jones got in front of a microphone and said, actually, boys, the Dallas Cowboys are just fine. The Dallas Cowboys are just fine. Is that Jerry's belief? Maybe. Is it Jerry's opinion? Probably. Does that in any way, shape, or form reflect reality and the evidence presented to us? No, quite the opposite. The evidence says Jerry is wrong. He's wrong. It actually turns out the evidence presents that team's real bad. So I am fine with the selection process being subjective, being idea-driven, being subjectively determined by the people in that room. I'm okay with that. But I want them to defend it. I want them to defend their rankings, defend their beliefs. I'm not going to say there's no reason for Mizzou to be ranked 23, as happens on the show with great regularity. Sometimes I have a take, somebody brings a counter to that take, they present some good, solid reasoning, whether it is logical arguments or presentation of a bias within my take or a logical fallacy I hit on the arrival at my take, or solid physical evidence that my take is wrong. No matter what it is, I will regularly change my mind when something is presented. That is why I want cameras in there, because when somebody writes this show and they say, why is Mizzou 23? I can give you my opinion, my answer for it, but it's irrelevant. And the question you're asking is not, even if you don't think this is the case, it is. The question you are asking is not, why is Mizzou 23? The question you are asking is, why did the committee place Mizzou at 23 so that we know moving forward, hey, if a team hits this, and this parameter, they can expect to be 23.
See, here's the thing. So if we did know, it would just lead to more arguments and more, well, I don't get why they came up with that, even though you heard why they came up with it. And maybe some people will go, hey, it's that way because I said so. Because I'm in the committee, and this is what I've decided. I think that team is better.
Let me ask you
this. Because in the
question.
end, it's all about opinion. It's still about opinion. I know all facts are presented and all that kind of stuff, but these guys have to watch the games and supposedly do it without bias, which I don't think is possible. And I think money comes into play. A lot of things come into play. And then sometimes it's just, I don't like that team. I like this team. I want that team in.
Would you, Lonzo, would you let your political system be run that way?
I think the political system is run that way.
I don't disagree. Which is why, away from work, I have no problem voicing my opinion and questioning those whose subjective opinions guide legislation, right? We have a set, as the College Football Playoff Committee does, we have a set of foundational principles. Now, some people interpret those foundational principles, those founding documents, differently than others. But the point is,
there's no way to do it otherwise. There's no way to give a definite unless you go back to computers. There's no way. Opinion's going to come into play.
I agree.
No.
You've heard, I've said that 5 times this week. I agree. I said that to Denton Day earlier. I've said that to you multiple times this week. I agree. What I agree with is that there is no way to do this without subjective opinion driving it. I have reached that conclusion. However, that doesn't mean that the people with those subjective opinions shouldn't have to debate them, discuss them, document them, and back them up, right? If a politician comes out and says, I think we need to raise a 1 penny sales tax to fix the roads, then I would want to say, which roads, how, where's the money coming from? Where's the money going to? What are the contracts you're handing out? What companies are you? The opinion is we need to fix the roads and it's worth raising taxes. That's fine. But back up your reason for having that opinion and let's discuss and debate that.
And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, no debate here. I'm going to tell Rob what is Xing, and he's going to know what it is and why.
A lot of pressure today.
Yes.
A lot of pressure today.
The first thing Xing is Dalton Connect.
Dalton Connect is Xing because my man popped off yesterday. He was my favorite player in this draft, the young man out of the University of Tennessee. Dalton Connect went to the LA Lakers, and I'm going to tell you right now, he's damn sure better than Bronny James. How good was he last night, going 29 points, dishing out a handful of apples in the way? He was good enough that when LeBron James was doing his post-game presser, a media member said, hey, how did you guys find Dalton Connect? And LeBron James said, we didn't find Dalton Connect. 16 other teams did up by not drafting him. And I'm going to tell you right now, I called that shot before the draft. That kid is going to be a bonus. You know who he is? He's new age Manu Ginobili. That's who he is. And I'm all in on it.
He tied a rookie record with 9 3-pointers.
Yep. And he's going to, I promise you by the end of the year, he'll have a 10 3-pointer game. That kid can do everything.
I watched the highlights earlier. He looks really smooth. And when you see LeBron being talked to about him, he just has that smile like this dude is for real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that.
I told you going into the NBA draft, whoever got Dalton Connect was going to be very happy with that kid. And it turned out to be not only did, I'll tell you this, you got Bronny to keep LeBron happy, and you got Dalton Connect, who was my favorite player in this draft. I am going to make the argument the Lakers actually had a very good draft this year.
I think they did too. All right, the next thing Xing is Jay Leno.
I don't have anything for Jay Leno. It's his birthday, and he is 78.
He fell down a hill. You should look at the video. He fell down a hill. He hacked his eye up because he's an old man, and he is bruised all over his face, and still did his set. Went in and did his comedy set. And I'm guessing he probably worked that into it.
I mean, for sure. Everything's going downhill, including Jay Leno.
Well, you should look at the picture.
Well, now I have
he even lifts up the eye patch. It's gruesome.
Nice.
Yes.
Real quick before we go to the next one, Texter says, not to bring up the past, but you were wrong on Monday about the Tyson v. Paul fight, and you never apologized to Lonzo. No. You can kiss me square on both butt cheeks, Texter. That is absolutely not correct. I nailed the pick. Not only did I nail the pick, I made the biggest bet I've made in 4 years on Jake Paul and to win by decision. I made a buttload of money. I made a Mike Tyson's nude buttload of money because I knew exactly what was going to happen because it was scripted from the beginning, and I tried to talk all you out of it. We're not going back to that.
Well, you just did. All right, let us go to the next thing, which is the Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University. Trending because they got named last night number 2 in the college football playoff rankings, and they have a big one coming up.
It's bad.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's bad. They lost another lineman.
Oh, yes, that is right.
Starting center.
That is right. Yes. Seth McLaughlin is out.
It was already a patchwork line.
Yep.
So this is
one of
definitely a problem.
2 opening day starters that you had remaining.
Yeah, and they had moved guards.
Now you're down to 2.
Moved guards out the tackles that had never played that position before, and it's looking pretty ugly for Saturday.
Yeah, you already lost left tackle Josh Simmons, who is out. Seth McLaughlin now out with a torn Achilles tendon. By the way, I saw a picture of that cat this morning. He's like a 1960s Midwestern offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He's one of them big old cornbread sons of you-know-what's-his.
All right, last thing that's Xing is How to Train Your Dragon.
I saw the trailer for it yesterday. I'm going. First off, I love that movie. But second off, it looks like they just remade the movie shot for shot, and I'm all in.
I don't like all the Disney movies remake and put in live action, but it's dragons, dude.
I don't mind the Disney. I am fine with like a fresh reinterpretation of the animated movie into a live action. Bro, that trailer looks dope. And it's Gerard Butler.
It is. Yes.
Y'all have a great rest of your day. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
Stuff my butthole in your ass and walk it dry.
What a day, what a day, what a day, what a mighty good day.
I don't think that's how that song goes.
All right. More meetings and more events this evening. Trying to be a man out about the town, Lonzo. My column, Panthers head coach Dave Canales had no choice but to start Bryce Young this week. Yeah, he's won 2 in a row. Why would you not? He's the first Panther quarterback since 2022 to win 2 in a row.
You know, I wish I would have learned who was who on the coaches for Silver's coaching, because we now know who our coach is, but I don't know who he is. So
you know who he is, but you know who he is.
Well, I mean, they it was evaluation, so they had all the coaches out there walking around with clipboards, watching the kids practice, and I know who I hope it is, because there's some people, even though she's at presently SAWFT, they're putting her at center, and she's going to destroy some people once she finds her anger. So there's going to be some of this.
No, not today. Sounds like Dave isn't convinced Bruce is the guy. My favorite thing is ESPN beat reporter David Newton, who constantly has typos of player and coaches' names in his columns. So every time he comes up on the internet, Panther Twitter just repeatedly spells his name wrong in different and more creative ways. It's hysterical. All right, kids, I got stuff to do. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here. You're all amazing people. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show because we want to be rich and famous. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye.